Stargate is a Stargate. The announcement of the Stargate initiative in Abilene, Texas raises significant questions, especially given its close proximity to Dyess Air Force Base. While the project is officially described as an advanced AI development center, the strategic location near a major military installation suggests there may be deeper motives at play. Military bases are often involved in classified research and operations, and the connection here points to the possibility of preparing for something far more significant than AI advancements alone. It seems plausible that this site could be a key hub for managing and potentially hosting the first official encounter with extraterrestrial life. Additionally, the term Stargate itself is loaded with implications that evokes the ideas of interdimensional travel, advanced technology, and communication beyond Earth, a curious choice for a project that is supposedly only about AI. Given the increasing transparency about UFO sightings and government acknowledgement of unexplained aerial phenomena in recent years, it's reasonable to wonder if the Stargate initiative is laying the groundwork for controlled, deliberate contact with beings from beyond our planet. If such an encounter were to occur, a site like Abilene Central, relatively remote and militarily secure, would be an ideal location for such an event. Information overdose syndrome. The United States regime has perfected the arts of information warfare, not to inform, but to overwhelm. Everyday Americans are bombarded with a relentless flood of news, scandals, cultural conflicts, and political outrages, so much that the mind cannot process it all. This is not a side effect of the digital age, it is the strategy. By drowning the public in an unceasing storm of narratives, they ensure that people either become numb to reality or are so emotionally reactive that they waste their energy on performative outrage, arguing online, protesting symbolic issues, or obsessing over distractions. Meanwhile, beneath the chaos, truly massive shifts in power, wealth, and governance unfold largely unnoticed. The trick is simple: manufacture endless controversy so people are too overstimulated to recognize the real transformation happening around them. While Americans fight over identity politics, social media feuds, and partisan theatrics, unprecedented corporate consolidation, financial restructuring, and global strategic maneuvers are reshaping the very structure of the nation. The real generational laws change quietly, institutions are repurposed, and freedoms dissolve in the background, but no one can focus long enough to see the full picture, because by the time they do, another crisis, another headline, another urgent issue has already hijacked their attention. 2025 Final Solution. Relatively new to the sub, so I'm not sure if this has been addressed before, but here it goes. I think the wealthy elites genuinely think they're smarter and better fit for leadership than everyone else. Instead of building a better world and shifting industry towards clean energy, they're actively aiming for population control. If they kill enough people, that should, in their minds, reduce carbon footprints enough to justify that insane amount of energy used by AI. Also, forced/free manual labor allows them to keep the undesirables alive in the most bare minimum conditions, limiting the footprints of individual households. Of course, this is sick and fucked up beyond comprehension to a normal human, but they see this as the only compromise to solve an issue without cutting profits. I don't know, just spitballing. Obama wasn't the Antichrist, but maybe another is. Is it just me, or does anyone else remember during Obama's first run in term, the conspiracy theories calling him the Antichrist, and all those saying that the Antichrist would come from Africa? My fuzzy memory seems to think all the details they used to frame him seem to fit another better. Perhaps the Antichrist did come from Africa and rose to take over the United States. Unfortunately, they jumped the gun and tried to chase down a birth certificate to make it fit. But our own Mr. Musk fits a heck of a lot better. I'm no theologian, but some quick searches has me slightly concerned that I may be onto something. Has anyone else looked into this or have any more info? I like this one. Musk would fit a covert Antichrist rise to control the biggest institution in the world. Has anyone ever thought? Since Ashton Kutcher is being linked to Diddy, his parties, etc., Ashton had a girlfriend who was murdered in the Hollywood Hills, and he was at her house, claimed he saw something that he believed was red wine spilled on the floor. It was the blood of his dead girlfriend, but he left and went to a party, was not really investigated for any involvement, and his life went on. He was with Brittany Murphy. They broke up and she married Simon. Then she died of pneumonia, just like Kim Porter. Then Simon dies of pneumonia a year later. Wendy Williams has just been diagnosed with dementia, the same dementia that Bruce Willis has been diagnosed with. Bruce Willis was married to Demi Moore for years before Ashton and her got married. Do you think it's a coincidence that Wendy and Diddy had a problem? Now she is incapacitated. Bruce has the same kind of dementia. Big red flags over here. Ashton is in deep with this, I think. Dkane TikTok Pred. Known for his flamboyant and a short-tempered personality.
Come on.
You're kind of lucky I'm even talking to you right now. Usually I pay people to talk to me.
Did you just hear what he said? He said, usually I pay people to talk to me.
Dkane is well known as the Lil Bro guy on TikTok.
Yeah, you ain't gonna tense up on me, Lil Bro.
Sporting wannabe gangster tattoos, he claims to be part of the MS-13 gang, or at least he insinuates that with a 13 tattoo on the middle of his forehead. The jokes write themselves.
Me walking somewhere and you were behind me, you would see a big 13 on the back of my neck, and you already know what type of timing I'm on.
I mean, you got your chain snatched. Obviously, you weren't on no timing. You was on some real timing. You would have swung with that ankle monitor.
Actually, one of the greatest moments in his TikTok career was when he was finally tested on this matter to see if he was actually a gangster, and it was utterly humiliating, making me almost feel sorry for the guy the way that he got punked.
Go ahead, bro. Are you gonna give me my shirt or not? Go ahead. I don't need to call him, but you gonna give me my shirt or not? Call security. Go ahead, call right now. Are you gonna give me my shirt right now? Nigga, call security. Call security right fucking now, nigga.
Why do you keep talking, bro? Do something already.
Nigga, stop waiting for you to hit us. I'm gonna give you a reason for me, nigga. Nigga, I'm on ankle monitor. Go with you. That fucker can walk out before it's. Give me my chain, bro. On the way, nigga. Hurry up, give me my chain. Nigga, unless you want to do it my people, so we ain't give a fuck if you want ankle monitor. Get the fuck away from me, bro.
That is until you learn about his dirty little secret. He is a potential runner-up for a To Catch a Predator cameo.
Can you have a seat over in that chair, please?
As exposed in multiple screenshots and testimonies, and he pulls it all off by using his little guy energy. In actuality, Dkane is not a troubled 15-year-old kid that got tattoos too young. Though his TikTok image may fool you, he is actually a 23-year-old man, chatting up teen girls on TikTok lives and through other mediums. Starting off as a thirst trapper, not surprising, he would quickly gain followers because of his interesting appearance. Adorned in the finest tattoos, he was the easy bait for Lalo to make fun of, so he started to go viral off those clips as well, which led to his success on the platform. But not all success is positive, as many of his followers would simply bully him in the comments, roasting him all throughout his lives, and basically putting Dkane on the defense every time he interacted with another person on TikTok. Sooner or later, someone who knew him was bound to speak out, and it happened to be his ex-girlfriend who spilled everything. Apparently, Dkane was not really a gangster. Part of the MS-13 gang, he didn't even have any real ops. So what did he do with all this pent-up anger? He unleashed it on his partners and on his own grandmother and grandfather, stabbing them. His ex would also reveal the reason why she finally left him, finding that Dkane was texting a 14-year-old girl and begging her for feet pics, and in another case, her underwear. Not to mention that his ex was 16 years old when they began dating, when he was allegedly around 20 years old. All his relationships with minors, she began to feel uncomfortable. Not surprising, he didn't even react or respond when confronted about this and all the allegations.
No wonder Dkane's always trying to be all freaky at the club, getting up on these like young girls. You're weird, Dkane, bro. I thought you were different, bro. I thought you was a real member on the guys. You don't even be banging for the set, bro. Like you into these young girls, you tripping.
And a freshman girl, that's a freshman.
Yeah.
That literally just became a freshman. And his 23-year-old ass was asking her for feet pictures. He's a midget that's psycho. He beats not only on females, he beats on his grandparents actually too. His grandma.
The abuelito?
Yeah, those charges, he says, oh, look at my charges. 2 of those charges are from his grandma and his grandpa for stabbing them.
Dkane is how old by chance?
23.
Okay, Mr. Confuso's 23. And then by chance, how old are you looking at right now?
Let's just put it like 17. I'm about to be 18.
So in other words, he pre-ordered you.
Sure.
Drake trafficking theory. Okay, this is something I've had on my mind for a while now, ever since the Drake and Kendrick beef, and there have been other posts on this, but it has not reached the light yet. Mind you, I'm a huge fan of both of them, but I cannot enjoy Drake the same as I used to after the whole rap community turned on him. Drake basically got publicly humiliated, but I'm not here to talk about that. I have substantial evidence that leads me to believe that Drake has been trafficking. Starting off, I've watched a fair share of porn in my life, not proud, and about 3 years ago, I stumbled upon a channel known as Casting HD. Basically, a model would show up for a photo shoot off an ad. They are usually very young and are new on the scene. In every single video, the guy always says that he works with a very famous rapper, and they're looking for girls to be in a music video and hang out with the artist backstage. Whenever the girl asks who the rapper is, or the guy mentions him, it is always covered up, but I can guarantee that he is saying Drake. The girls' eyes glow up whenever they hear that name, and if you go to the specific moments in the video, you can see the girl's voice mouthing, "Will Drake like this?" I tried putting other rappers' names in there that are pronounced the same, Diddy, Future, Gunna, and so many others, but nothing sounded as coherent and consistent as Drake. Now, I believe the guy in these videos having sex with the girls is Drake's longtime friend Baka Not Nice, who you may have heard of in Not Like Us. Now, the only inconsistency here is that the guy in the video tends to be chubbier, and he does not sound like Baka. Baka Not Nice. He has been Drake's shooter for a while before he got locked up, and he has also been found guilty of trafficking, which matches up with what is going on in this particular casting couch, because these girls are never actually in any rap video or anything, but they are willing to take the chance because they're young and pretty, and Drake could change their life. V12, that's a fast one, Kendrick Lamar says. V12 is the company that owns Casting Couch HD and its video girls. I had also heard that the company had arranged for private flights and transportations, but take this with a grain of salt because there is not much evidence backing that up. Lastly, it is a known fact that when Drake goes on tour, he sends his entourage out to find girls for them to F, and then whichever one the crew likes best, they will bring to Drake. Lastly, my most important piece of evidence: there has only been one girl in the channel's history that people were able to find on social media. The P video that she shot for the company was titled something like "Hottie with an Hourglass Body." If you decided to look it up, just search Casting Couch Hourglass and you will see her. No other girls have ever been found on the site's social media. It is very exclusive. You will not find a mainstream porn star ever. In the video, she clearly mouths Drake, and they did a horrible job editing it out. The guy, who I believe is Baka Not Nice, I could be mistaken here, says throughout the video, with the name censored, Drake is going to really like this. Tell Drake what you're doing on camera, where it gets wicked. I put the girl's IG below. One of her story highlights shows her at Drake's concert. She's at the very front row with $700 tickets. Skipski on IG just wanted to get this off my chest. Was a good read. Thanks for sharing. Have you ever watched the TV show Atlanta? There's an episode titled Champagne Papi that basically dry snitches on Drake about this as well. Cecot. This is a well-known prison system in the country of El Salvador, holding what are supposed to be gang members and criminals. It is often referred to as an example of human rights violations around the world, as the conditions are horrible and are often compared to concentration camps, as they cram people together in order to save space and money. Though Cecot takes it a step further by being the ultimate big brother, all-seeing eye, and implementing technology to better control the prison population. At this moment, many would scoff at the idea that they are being abused. They have access to food and water. After all they have to do is serve their time, right? Someone needs to pay for all this. Let's put them to work, said the president of El Salvador. He saw an opportunity and took it at the expense of innocent people that have no access to resources in order to legally fight back and prove their innocence. Instead, they take who they take, regardless if they have evidence. And sure, they may take a guilty person every once in a while, but who is it at the expense of? And is it worth it to put multiple people in prison for life and slavery for a crime they never committed? Entering the prison, you get reactions like this. Once you see the amount of people in the cells, it smells like hopelessness. Another evidence of this occurring is the existence of daily goals, which each officer has to meet in order to avoid being blackmailed, leading to many false arrests in order to complete a quota, which is violating people's human rights. Lenscap Productions, aka Mr. Anime, a very ordinary looking YouTuber. You wouldn't give him a second glance. This guy uploaded videos onto the internet where he would review anime using a very modest MacBook camera. Trey Eric Sisler would rant to his heart's content about the recent anime he watched and gave his opinions on the matter, also creating funny skits every now and then. Soon enough, he was popular in the niche and had the respect of his viewers, posting regularly, gaining notoriety on YouTube. He seemed happy and fulfilled. Strangely, his content did seem to get slightly darker as time went on, although this could have simply been a push to more edgier humor, something that would soon become very popular on the site. Another thing to note is that in his final videos, many comments point out that he sounds very drunk, claiming that he is speaking very slow and sometimes even slurring his words. Comparing his older to newer content, you can definitely tell the difference, even going as far as describing himself as a NEET, standing for not in employment, education, or training, fighting with his parents constantly, mainly his dad, leading to tension in the household. At one point, he began posting his Facebook that his family's pet rabbit had gone missing, but in reality, he had simply let it run off, kicking it out the house, amongst other accusations from those around him that he would abuse animals, sometimes even killing them for fun. Everything seemed normal, or at least normal to him at that time, until he would release the video in which he would announce that he was taking a break from YouTube for a short time, though saying that he acknowledged that he was at his career's peak. Soon after, his true plan would come to fruition. Instead of working at his supposed new job in the firm industry, which was a lie, he would use the time to get wasted and plan out a shooting that he wanted to be the talk of the nation. Later finding that he was a big fan of mass shooters, unsurprisingly, admiring them. Ultimately, this led to him finally wanting to act out his thoughts, taking out his mother, Rhonda, first, then going after his brother Mark after, due to his brother rushing in to see what the loud bang was. Finally, Lawton, his dad, frightened by the loud noises and still in bed, yelled out for his family, alerting Trey to his location in his parents' bedroom and ending his father's life. Mark being the only one to survive the first ordeal, he crawled to the bathroom and locked the door, only to soon be caught by his own brother and getting shot once again, this time passing away, ending the life of all his family pets as well, writing on the walls about how guilty he was and that he really did love his family. And when caught trying to stay at a friend's house, he would confess to everything he had done, stating how it could have been worse, as he had attempted a mass shooting, but then backed out at the last second while parked outside Walter Junior High. There's gotta be human clones we don't know about. Nobody's gonna tell me we were able to clone a sheep in 1996, kept cloning cats, dogs, horses, mules, rabbits, and rats, and lately a ferret, and we haven't had any more advances since 30 plus years. The fact that there's most probably underground human experiments about it and could be used for anything is worrying. Yes, a sheep body is way less complicated than a human body, but in 20 years with all this technology, plus the advanced technology some people may have access to, they have to at least try to do it on people for medical reasons. There's have to have been a clone baby before, but I don't mean it like that. I mean the cloning of people as a farming way to replace or silent controversial polemic people. Sudden changes in personality and weird behavior in people who were into shady stuff almost always feel like they were switched with someone else, if I'm being honest. I mean, cloning for that kind of stuff. Now, you're supposed to not be allowed to clone people for any reason, not even medical, or so since 2016, I think, but I don't believe a second experiment and tests about it have stopped. I must agree that such research subjects were in the past more public. Today's silence on the cloning topic makes me believe that there's some crazy stuff going on. I recall a few years ago seeing that a Chinese female doctor had successfully reproduced the 6 month of human utero in a pod mixed with goat placenta, but that she was prohibited to finish the study because of its ethics, and no one has heard about her afterwards. That is also something that makes me believe even more. After 2016, I think cloning babies or people for medical reasons even was supposed to have stopped, but I don't believe a second people who have decided that their studies and hard work for it would just give it up. I think it's mostly because of the moral behind it and how human experiments are now supposed to not be a thing. Barbara Morgan. Barbara Morgan was a NASA astronaut working as a backup to Krista McAuliffe for the 1986 mission of the Space Shuttle Challenger, set to leave Earth on January 28, 1986. As Barbara watched in glee on video showing her reaction, the Space Shuttle exploded 73 seconds into its flight, taking the lives of all 7 crew members on board. All this happened as Barbara Morgan watched what could have been her fate. Mouth wide open, she was in shock. They're purposely shutting down social media. Yes, social media can be utter effery, but for the most part, it's the first time in history we've been able to speak to other people in the world at the touch of our fingertips. Hell, even anyone who reads or responds to this will very likely be from some far off country to my own. Twitter was the biggest news source that wasn't dominated by the small few. Facebook/Meta, while pretty grim, was still a source of making friends with people from near and far. I read that people are wondering why Meta would want to implement AI friends, and I felt the answer was obvious: to get people off the sites. If people don't know if who they're talking to is real or not, they're likely not going to use it. I've seen that TikTok is being banned in the States. Why? It stops Americans from seeing how other people live, and they don't want citizens to be connecting dots, no matter whether it's to do with the entire planet being governed by 2,800 billionaires and becoming aware of that, or if other countries are thriving because of communist ideals such as public healthcare, free universities, etc. While social media has had its times of being shit, for the most part, all I see is people connecting with others on a large scale that they couldn't have done ever before without it. It's direct access to real people with real lived experiences, not just propaganda forced via the news like in times past. I also want to say that this propaganda fuels the opinions that aren't even inherently ours, that our countries and people are specific stereotypes when they aren't. All the 1% are actually doing is telling on themselves because they're referring to the 1% competition of that country, not its citizens. It's the new wave of divide and conquer, and it's not working. People have disappeared from Twitter, so where did they move to? TikTok? That's soon to be banned. Then what? Meta? That's going to be full of AI bots. And then where? There isn't any other social media really except for here, and even then algorithms push certain subs above others, and there's the theory that it's already flooded with bots anyways. So yeah, that's my theory based on a lot of pattern recognition and questioning the motive behind the decisions they're making. TLDR, they're trying to reduce the class consciousness and connection with large groups of people who are just like us to ensure capitalism keeps up pace. Andrew Tate is actually gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Andrew Tate, like Adolf Hitler, is actually gay, and to make up for his extreme disgust with himself, he attacks anything viewed as feminine because he is actually gay. Just a conspiracy theory, because anyone who demeans and demoralizes women and acts like a top dog has got something they're trying to hide and or prove. The stock market is crashing because the billionaires who own the hedge funds want Dems to lose the election. Dems have threatened to make billionaires pay some income tax to support the economy that is making them even richer. Billionaires are throwing in with Trump because he gives tax breaks to the rich, because it includes himself and his family. Destroying the price of stock hurts investors, so they will vote against the government that is in power. Ordinary people don't wake up one morning and decide to dump their stocks. It takes most investors days to meet with their advisors, and they don't invest in the wide range of small companies that are being hurt. Hedge funds, on the other hand, are owned by billionaires and handle investments for billionaires. They keep track of each other so they don't interfere with each other's manipulations, and they have computers that they can program to tank all the prices at the same time. Watch Ken Griffin of Citadel at 3422, where he says that they are controlling prices and he knows who is doing it.
Now, passive investing is actually rooted in the theory that markets are efficient, and that markets are efficient because of active managers setting the prices of securities. Firms like Citadel, firms like Fidelity, firms like Viking Global, Capital Research. We're all running large teams of people that are engaged in fundamental research, trying to drive the value of companies towards where we think they should be valued. And passive investing, in a sense, enjoys the market efficiency that we create in our work each and every day.
Billionaires are telling us that our enemies are other ordinary people. We actually all want the same thing, but it isn't what billionaires want. They are making us hate each other. They are the enemy. Dem voters and Republican voters want a fair tax system. They both want affordable healthcare and affordable housing. They both want background checks to keep guns out of the hands of career criminals. We are all the same. Rupert Murdoch, a billionaire, owns Fox, and they paid $787 million to Dominion for lying to their listeners about the election machines. Fun fact, back before Wall Street shit the bed in 2008, one estimate was that Goldman Sachs alone controlled 40% of the market. Remember when the banks went begging to Congress for a bailout? At first Congress said no, then the market plunged about 7% the next day. At the time, it was the biggest single day drop in history. Then Congress passed the bailout. It's a big club, and the people Congress represents ain't in it. Is all insurance one big scam? Oil prices have increased significantly over the past decades, as has insurance. Car prices and car insurance, homes and home insurance, healthcare and health insurance. It's all just one big scam where powers at be are working together to increase the prices of everything on us little guys. Yes, source. I've worked in corporate health insurance and healthcare. It's all a scam to make money. They are businesses after all. What's totally effed up is that they take your premium payments and play the stock market, making even more money off of providing you with a false sense of security. Speaking of security, they have whole teams of people that calculate the odds of having to pay out claims and find every way to avoid it. Source. I've worked in the industry for a while now. Insurance specifically works to profit by denying care. I'm fairly certain they have quotas to work to find reasons why they shouldn't cover it. There's a fairly involved test requested by our doctor for one of our kids. They denied it on the logic that a simpler, less expensive test should be done at first, and then the pricier test should be done if necessary. So we requested pre-approval for the simpler test. Got denied because it was quote-unquote decided it was not medically necessary, according to their team of medical review MDs. What actually happened during COVID-19? It should be called the anger pandemic. Am I the only one who's noticed how angry people have become? I mean, it's crazy to me how no one else seems to notice how normalized anger has become in our society. You look at 2018 compared to now, and people did not tolerate the kind of behavior they do now. It's like the anger has turned into hatred and violence. Am I the only one who sees it? There is a direct correlation that links back to the pandemic. So what the happened during COVID that turned us all into monsters? People forgot how to drive too. They developed insane anger, as you said, and also a distinct lack of consideration for other people, to the point that if they wrong you, they have the nerve to get angry if you get upset about it. It's like the real world became more like an internet comment section, minus the anonymity. I think people are angry because they are all poor. Everything is absurdly expensive, tired, overworked, and lonely. Also, everyone is constantly ostracized and told their way of life is bad no matter what they believe in. I truly believe people's cognitive functions deteriorated post-pandemic. People are just angry, restless, and impatient with everyone. It is all too apparent in the service industry as well, which I am currently in. I think it's watching the world we know go to shit, making us deeply sad and angry. We don't know what side is even a side. Can't trust the news or any political side. We learn that certain friends, family, or neighbors will drop you like a hat if you don't agree with their views. The cost of literally anything is through the roof, stifling half the population. Our leaders don't lead. We are seeing people's dreams get shattered, and we have no idea how to fix anything that is now clearly very broken. Modern capitalism is what is crushing us all, with stagnant wages and rising costs. Of course, the ultra-wealthy control the media and direct our anger away from themselves. Yes, and the pandemic showed no one cares if you die as long as you were working. This is exactly what's happening. It's astonishing to me how people can't see that. The real fight is not right versus left or black versus white. It's all of us against the ultra-wealthy elites that use us as their personal workforce. You are in your own timeline. I have a theory on consciousness. You have your own timeline. You own the timeline. Everyone else in your timeline are like NPCs. They think that they are in their timeline, but in actuality, they are in your timeline. You are all alone. Everyone lives in their own timeline. It's their story to make. In your own timeline, you will live till very old and die, and that's where your timeline stops. However, before that, you'll not die in your timeline. There are many branches of your timeline. There are branches where you are no longer here, but that's not your timeline. That's someone else's main timeline. If someone dies in your timeline, they'll still be alive in their timeline. You cannot die in your timeline no matter what. Dreams are you peeking into someone else's timeline, but in your perspective. Every decision you make, you create a new timeline. All of you reading this are now in my timeline. In your timeline, this post might not even exist. Everyone has a happy ending in their own way. I love it. Every single comment in here, the consciousness and timeline thing is extremely intriguing to me. I don't think timeline is quite the exact word for what you are trying to say. Timelines are objective consensus realities. I suspect all consciousness within each timeline works together to form a matrix of vectors that form the consensus reality. That said, if there are multiple or even infinite timelines, every consciousness doesn't exist in all of them. If they are infinite, then a version of you exists in an infinite number of them that you may have some kind of metaphysical connection to, which you might be able to use to navigate between them. But the realities themselves don't belong to any single consciousness, unless it's a specific type of alternate dimension, or that's specifically how it works there. If there are infinite alternate realities, they probably function in infinitely different ways. I believe Kris Jenner is involved in human trafficking, and her clients are mostly high-end powerful people, and that's why she's able to get her daughter Kim so many gigs with high-end fashion brands despite her having horrible taste in fashion, and most famous people, particularly those with class, despising them. They're not really well liked at all by famous people. She does what Epstein did, blackmail powerful people for money and ways into their social circle. How else would Kris be able to pull these things out of her ass? I've yet to meet a single person who has bought any of their products. I'm not saying no one has, but for them to be worth the amounts they're worth, I feel I would know at least one person. Didn't it come out that in the Diddy raid, there was a bunch of videos of Kim and them blackmailing people? Yep, plus they are probably laundering money through a church with Lou Taylor, aka Britney Spears' conservatorship supervillain, who also partners with P. Diddy since the 90s. This is a brilliant theory. I'm an elder millennial and cannot comprehend how they have stayed relevant this long with so many other people becoming famous, either from TikTok or YouTube, and trends changing so quickly. I just want that vapid family to fade into obscurity, but they're hanging on for dear life. I remember hearing rumors way back in the day that Kris groomed Kim into becoming a sort of high-end escort to the rich and famous in LA. I wouldn't be surprised if this were true, considering the nature of Kim's rise to fame, and the fact that all these B, D, Z-listers, Playboy models, and those starting out escorts on the side. I also remember Kim doing the whole Dubai circuit. LOL, there's a deep, dark rabbit hole regarding the industry in Dubai. Definitely makes for some interesting research. If there's anyone likely to be involved in human trafficking, it would be the Kardashians. They have zero talent. She also leaked Kim's sex with Ray J to make her go viral. Back then, Kim was Paris Hilton's assistant/friend. Kris Jenner is a piece of crap mom. Ray J is Brandy's brother. She was a popular R&B singer and made a sitcom called Moesha in the 90s. Elon Musk is a Russian agent. Think about it. February 24th, 2022. Putin invades Ukraine. Invasion goes badly and there's a stalemate. We know Putin and Elon have been in contact since early 2022, before the invasion. Less than 2 months later, April 14th, 2022, Elon offers to buy Twitter. I don't believe this is a coincidence. Putin realizes he can't win conventionally, so he has Elon buy Twitter to get Trump elected by turning it into a right-wing propaganda machine. Trump gets elected and hands Ukraine to Russia. Putin decided to play the long game once he realized he wasn't going to win. Does this make sense? Not to mention the fact he's using the Starlinks he gave to Ukraine to pass military intel to the Russian army. So-called elites pledge allegiance to money, not flags. Exactly, Saudis give him the money. Authoritarian oligarchs are sticking together. Musk, Putin, Bezos, Trump, and many others. They want to control all the levers of power on this earth. All the resources, all the necessities, food, housing, maintenance, transportation. This is happening quietly in the background. We are at a grave risk of corporate feudalism. Cross them and your access is cut off. It's billionaire fascists against everyone else. I only say no because Starlink, he offered and donated to the Ukrainian army, has been regarded by the Ukrainian military as one of the most important tools on the ground. At that, they would not be even a fraction as successful as they've been if it wasn't for Elon personally making the decision to get them a larger number of units to keep all large groups on the ground connected to the internet. For me, it is yes for the same reasons. Imagine you having control of all the data your enemy is using because they're using your internet. It's a gold mine. You can read all data you want. Weird TikTok account. Don't skip. Scrolling on TikTok today and came across a video with no likes. As I'm watching, I realized the video is for Olaf. It's a rack of phones, and all of them look to be similar in type, but they are all on different apps and seem to be actively scrolling and typing and other things like gaming all by themselves. I then look at the caption and it says Lily James Hepatitis A. I click on the page and the whole account is like this, but with different odd captions, saying things like Cuphead Spectrum Internet Hymen, Stages of Grief, Jedi Fallen Order Possum, McDonald's Near Me Michelle Williams, Pete Davidson, Prince Charles. Can someone please explain what this is? The captions reminded me of a lot of things people would Google search because of the odd jumbled words and the use of near me. All of the videos are sort of the same setting with no differences. The first one has a dark brown object that moves out of the camera's view at the beginning of the video. It's just a click farm. They are most likely using randomly generated keywords that were trending on TikTok to try and squeeze extra money out of views on the videos. Yep, interesting that a lot of people don't know that China has thousands of these bot farms, each with thousands of phones just like this, just tapping away at links, ads, posts, even commenting on YouTube vids, Facebook posts, etc. In fact, 60% of all internet activity comes from bots. Facebook used to have at least 80% bot engagement, making up for a large chunk of its revenue. Dawn Platinum dish soap is being sold to consumers with the end purpose of breaking up fatbergs and city sewer lines. Last weekend I went on a trip and put a few ounces of Dawn Platinum dish soap in a standard Ziploc baggie so I could wash some dishes in my room over the long weekend. The soap disintegrated the Ziploc baggie, also disintegrated the plastic package of a Chomp's beef jerky package, and started to disintegrate the beef jerky within 4 days. This soap is so strong and often on sale, I can't help but wonder if the quiet goal is to pass the cost of sewer cleaning onto the consumer by selling us this very caustic soap and passing it off as standard dish soap. Be careful with it. Procter & Gamble owns the sewer lines in the city I live in? The next type of warfare is happening right in front of us. I have been hearing this with my friends' kids who are way less developed than they should be for their age as a result of COVID, thus costing us our youth with lower intelligence to further destroy our country, United States, and make them more ignorant/docile to be easily manipulated from the constant stimulation of phone technology/social media. This is in line with what the ex-KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov was saying how they would target and destroy our country, testing our electrical grid and healthcare system 2 days ago, flooding our country with fentanyl, working with the Chinese and the cartels. Whomever this force, whether it's Russia or multiple countries, we are very low in education, high in drug use, high in mental health. This is the next level of modern warfare, influence through manipulation and a constant state of dopamine and serotonin and propaganda. Ozemp went viral because it suddenly got more cost-effective to cure fat people than it did to treat diabetes when the government kept the cost of insulin. titled "Don't Care Which Politician You Believe That Capped the Cost of Insulin." The reply reads, the drug was approved in 2017 for type 2 diabetes, which is basically a fat person disease. They noticed that a major side effect of the drug was weight loss from the loss of appetite, which ironically also helps with lessening symptoms of type 2 diabetes. This was quickly noticed by doctors, so they started prescribing it for off-label use for weight loss. At the same time, the drug companies moved quickly to make a weight loss version of the drug, Wegovy, to sell separately with different dosages, since they can now segment the market between diabetic insulin use and weight loss use. They can charge the weight loss crowd more. With regards to safety and side effects, we already know obesity is an extremely major health risk that ultimately will cause heart disease, diabetes, and stroke, etc. So many doctors and people feel the side effect risks are worth it. We are being indoctrinated into believing this is normal. How long before these things are freely amongst us, in large numbers, in public, scanning us, watching us, violating our personal space, our privacy, etc. Eventually, even flesh and blood will not be necessary for our security and safety. I understand Boston Dynamics has been working on these things for years now, and they have used them in public and military use. This is not new. But what's the point of stuff like this? Hundreds of millions of dollars, a decade of time and research to even make these things a possibility, and we are using them for literal, mindless, useless garbage. Imagine it's 2003 and you tell your coworkers, friends, or family that cell phones can track you, steal your personal info, spy on you, etc., and they laugh at you and scoff at you, label you as crazy. This will be no different. I think our phones secretly take pictures. So my iPhone's back camera doesn't really work. It does, but it vibrates and makes this rattling noise when you try to take a picture. Other people probably know what I'm referring to, but a lot of times when I step into the bathroom, I will hear the rattle noise once, even though my phone is locked and on the counter, telling me that it's trying to use the camera. But why? Why would it need to do anything to the camera when the phone is off? Anyone else experience this, or do y'all think I'm probably just a little crazy? The reason that college in the United States is so expensive might be to get more people in the military. There was a time where I wanted to see any conspiracy theories about the college/university system in America, since it's a controversial thing anyway, lol. I came across a small text, I think it was from BuzzFeed, that stated that the reason why college tuition in the United States is so high, it's so that more people can join the military. Think about it. I'm pretty sure, in my opinion, that a good 40 to 50% of young people who join the military are doing it so they could avoid a student debt and have a good paying job right away. Not saying all no offense. However, if college were to be free or cheap, people would not want to join the military. And with the fact that the United States is known for really acknowledging their military, it could really hurt them. And so that's a probable reason as to why college tuition is raised other than inflation and such. Because even though we have some of the richest and biggest colleges ever, they still charging us $80K to $100K for a bachelor's degree. Anyone agree? Does anyone else have any conspiracy theories about college? Because I'm a junior college student that might be a low-key college hater, but I'm not trying to encourage people to drop out. Now, this is a real conspiracy theory. I personally think colleges are so expensive because of how laws around the student loans work, namely that you can't erase student loan debts through bankruptcy, incentivizing loan providers to give loans to everyone. No risk debt structure equals eternal profit, which incentivizes college to hire tons of useless administrators, which drives an increased cost in tuition. I would not be surprised if pro-military industrial complex lobbyists helped make those students' loan laws. Was Sears run out of business to support Amazon's dominance? Sears was one good CEO away from being a serious competitor to Amazon. 60 years ago, they had the infrastructure that Amazon is just now growing. I'm a little surprised that Amazon hasn't yet taken over the empty retail space. I live in a pretty major metro area, and many of our former Sears stores are still laying dormant. They could resurrect service merchandise at the same time, have a small customer-facing area, or even some retail space to sell damaged goods, and then use the warehouse and auto center to operate a small fleet of delivery vehicles. I know the basic story that the last owner did buy it to run it out of business. Did he/does he own a stake in Amazon? Sears had the catalog business, but they didn't do anything to make it better, faster, or cheaper. Amazon came around and had big ideas like free fast shipping. Sears just sat around living off their infrastructure and did nothing to improve it. Yep, they had a chance to be a pseudo-Amazon, much like Blockbuster had a chance to be a quasi-Netflix. Would they have succeeded the same? Who knows, but they had the infrastructure and warehouse space to make it work in theory. In theory is the operative phrase here. Who is trying to kill you with microplastics? Microplastics are in your family jewels, human blood, placentas, and breast milk. Microplastics have been shown to cause damage to human cells. They decrease sperm counts and increase sperm deformities. People with microplastics in their arteries were more likely to suffer heart attack, stroke, or death in general. People with inflammatory bowel disease have higher concentrations of microplastics in their feces. They're in beer, cola, and drinking water, in vegetables and fruits, and fast food and organic food. It didn't used to be this way. Talk to older people. They will tell you of a time not too long ago, not more than 50 years ago or so, when everything was not plastic, when soda and other beverage bottles were not just recycled, they were reused, returned for deposit, washed, and reused over and over with little environmental impact. Milk was delivered to your door by the milkman in glass bottles, and the empty bottles were picked up and returned to be rewashed and reused. Beer would be delivered to your door by a beer distributor, and they would pick up the empty beer bottles to be rewashed and refilled. Soda vending machines had wooden cases next to them, where everyone would put the glass empties to be returned to the bottler to be washed and refilled. You can see this in old photos. The wooden cases were reused over and over. No waste. What happened? Do a quick online review of the literature on plastic pollution. It isn't quite flying under the radar, but considering the fact that it is contributing more and more to the slow boil public health crisis, why aren't more alarm bells going off? Especially when reusable, non-recyclable, reusable glass technology was widely used and accepted in recent memory. What happened? In light of the clear and present danger of microplastics, we are continuing to use them with no outcry from the vaccine or mask or big pharma conspiracists who pretend to be concerned about public health, unless that was just BS to cover a political agenda. Who's behind this conspiracy against humans? Is it the collective unconscious of nature, Mother Nature, engineering revenge on an out-of-control human population, the Eritrean Liberation Front, the justified ancient of Mumu, the legend of dynamic discord? Who is behind this, and what are their goals? Kanye plus Elon collaboration? Just had a wild thought / conspiracy theory. Warning, I have no solid evidence. This is purely based off smoking and a beer. What if the only reason Kanye is going on a blatant Nazi tirade recently on Twitter, also known as X, is because he was either paid or collaborated with Elon to be the scapegoat and take the heat off of him, with the media for doing a Nazi salute at the inauguration. I only say this because ever since Kanye has gotten comfortable sharing his thoughts online and selling Nazi t-shirts on his website, I have seen zero posts or people talking about Elon doing a Nazi salute twice on national television. It's like he was replaced with the next and worst thing, yay, and is now able to disappear again to focus on gaining political power. I know Kanye has displayed anti-Semitic sentiments in the past, but the timing on this is insane. Just wait till conspiracy theorists realize that they were a part of a conspiracy to use conspiracy theorists to spread disinformation via conspiracy theories so that dark MAGA could replace Trump with a techno dictatorship. Tariffs are for the 1% planned globalization. So I've been thinking, these tariffs aren't for anything but the richest to profit immensely off of. Everyone else will have to foot the bill. They have an opportunity to price gouge astronomically. You know full well these companies will come up with more reasons to increase prices even more on top of the tariff percentages. What if all of this is intended? What if the powers at play don't care about the future of America or its people or any border or anyone? What if they are beginning the new world order, or at least their world order? Every action taken lately seems to correlate these implications. I hear people talking and trying to make objective, logical sense of all this, but we will only waste time this way because there is no logic behind these actions they are taking, only chaos for personal gain. Even if they aren't ushering in a new world order, all of this is leading the majority of us down some dark days, my friends, leading to my other theory. This is their final solution, targeting the weak and lesser populations and purging us however they can, as blatantly as they can. This is only the beginning. This is identical to a fascist final solution. Think about it. What if our lives were a loop? Since our brain still processes our memories 8 minutes after death, what if we were in those 8 minutes experiencing everything without memory again, like a dream? It would feel like years, like a dream that feels longer than it should, which maybe explains why deja vu happens, because we've already experienced it before without noticing. Then when we die in that 8 minutes, it happens again when we experience life again, therefore making the loop of our life. I know this might not make sense, but it's just what I think what might happen after death. I overdosed back in 2013 and was pretty much dead, but was revived, and the deja vu that I get is so crazy and it happens all the time. OP might be onto something, like people I've never met before know me like we've been friends forever. It's definitely weird, and it's called the circle of life as well. Maybe we're stuck in a loop. The biggest conspiracy. Mankind has forgotten ancient knowledge. The human body, mind, and consciousness is more fantastical and powerful than we know it to be currently, and its development is being stunted. Now, I know that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, so in this post, I'm trying to make an argument not to prove this claim, but to show that it is worthy of considering. I'm also just briefly going over each section because I'm trying to connect this to our history as a species. I might make a separate post for each topic. One point I just want to make before I bring some evidence is that there are thousands of videos of random people doing acts that seem to defy the laws of physics as we know it, but in this age of internet, they are all disregarded because they are assumed to be fake. At what point is there too many for us to start looking deeper into smart, educated people that risk their reputation by making wild claims? Remote viewing has been statistically given some validation through statistical means, and here's a video of the professor of statistics at UC Irvine speaking on this validation in controlled environments. There has also been CIA-funded projects into remote viewing, which Russell Targ can be seen talking about here. There's much more on this, but that'll be another post. 1 in 3 people claim to have had a psychic experience. Everybody has these experiences that science really can't explain. When a mom gets a gut feeling and calls her son to find out that he was in a crash, or when you are thinking of someone and they call you randomly, I hear these stories all the time and they are always brushed aside. How do we know we aren't doing ourselves a disservice by not investigating such claims? For example, here, it is so interwoven into our society that we just know certain things or have a feeling about things that we shouldn't even know, that nobody bats an eye. And for those who speak on the Randy Challenge, here's someone who I thought did a good video of him. And even Princeton did a study on the effects of the mind on outcomes, and they concluded with the human/machine anomalies. We conducted thousands of experiments with millions of trials along these lines. Overall, the result was that there were small but consistent shifts in the means of these output distributions that could not be attributed to chance. There are many experiments that show that the mind has an effect on matter. Quantum mechanics, I know this is quoted for the strangest claims, but it belongs here, also could validate telekinesis and other mind-matter interactions. So here is where the road gets rocky. Many people have doubted the validity of our version of human development. Why are there maps that show the coastline of Antarctica before we had the technology to do so? Why do the pyramids get less complex as time goes? Why are there the same depictions throughout ancient civilizations that were separated by large oceans which suggested connectivity? Why do so many indigenous cultures speak of quote-unquote gods coming down and teaching them knowledge on how to farm, etc.? Why is there no depictions of the pyramids and Egyptian hieroglyphics and drawings? Why are there so many inconsistencies with the timing of the pyramids? This and much more backs up Graham Hancock's theory that we are a species with amnesia, that we were hit with a comet which took us out of the Ice Age and into the Younger Dryas period. This Younger Dryas period was apocalyptical to a level that's hard to even comprehend. The whole of our past was marked by floods, fires, and many changes that our planet went over. The people that survived from the past civilization tried to restart civilization again by going to groups of hunters and gatherers and teaching them agriculture and help them build Göbekli Tepe, The restart of civilization then mainly failed because it did not take us back to our true past, but it gave us a boost in our civilization. How is it that we, with all our knowledge today, we cannot truly figure out how the pyramids were built before we even used the wheel? How is there so little acknowledgement that the pyramids have electromagnetic properties? What if our ancient ancestors had knowledge that is lost to us now? Knowledge that allowed them to utilize these psychic skills in order to have a society that didn't require money, but still allowed them to build grand structures, which allowed them to move stones that weighed each 2 tons across vast distances. Could it be possible that we were once a great civilization, but one that knew each individual to be powerful? One that was in tune with nature so much that we never felt the need to cut down forests or build cities? Maybe at that point then hits with the comet which caused the Younger Dryas period, which restarted humanity's progress. After this, humanity had infinite paths to venture on, and we chose the one that's brought along the Industrial Revolution and the killing of our planet's lungs. I know there are many gaps and leaps in this theory, but I just wanted to have a discussion on this because it's been on my mind. One more thing, if this field interests you, here's one more video from a documentary. Just this video alone makes you wonder, what if we are missing something vital in our medical practices? Qigong is an ancient practice that claims that there is energy flowing through us at all times. There has been even a woman who was studied who can speed up the growth of a seed through qi. So this makes you wonder, what are we missing in our agricultural practices which have become artificial? Mysterious airships. One fascinating piece of forgotten history is the great airship mystery of the late 1800s and early 1900s. Before the Wright brothers' first flight in 1903, there were numerous reports across the United States of mysterious airships flying in the skies, sometimes described as massive, metallic, and capable of advanced maneuvers. Newspapers from California to the Midwest documented sightings with witnesses, including law enforcement and prominent citizens, claiming they saw these crafts land, refuel, or even interact with humans. Some accounts even suggested pilots of these airships spoke English and claimed to be from hidden, advanced civilizations. Despite widespread reports, the story largely faded from mainstream history, leading to speculation about whether these were early secret aviation experiments, misunderstood natural phenomena, or something more extraordinary. Today, this mystery remains largely buried, even though it predates modern UFO phenomena by decades. Meat puppets. I've been developing software for over 20 years now. I began looking deeper into robotics in hopes of designing prosthetics that were more responsive and even improved upon the lost extremities. I and many other engineers have discovered the challenges that come along with trying to replicate how well the human body responds to the brain. I've watched Elon Musk make attempt after attempt to catch up with Boston Dynamics and failed to do so. Boston Dynamics, even after all their incredible and amazing work, has not come close to designing the real deal humanoid robot that we have dreamed of in film and media, but we have made drastic progress, the kind of progress that cannot be stopped or slowed in creating an artificial brain. I also have studied political science for many years. I am by no means an SME in political science, but I have done my share of reading, and there is nothing about what Musk has been doing that has made sense to me. Nothing about his involvement that appears to have positive returns for him. What is his motive? Why would they want countries that are inhabitable and have no real resources? I believe that Musk has given up on engineering robots. I believe that he aims to have secret places to implant and test AI brain augmentation into vessels that already have perfect mobility without the risk of being shut down for humanitarian reasons. The perfect political structure to test new advances in science is a dictatorship, particularly a fascist one, because you get your first test subjects, no questions asked. He's a Dalek in a human skin, trying to make his own army of Cyberman by training a fascist algorithm and trying to bake it into everything he steals, buys, owns. His problem is he thinks owning Twitter means he owns us, and while that may be true in some regards, it's not true in the ways that actually matter, and he's starting to find out that deleting these programs have left him with very large groups of very angry people who have nothing but the rage he instilled in them with and time to fill. I think he literally believes he was rigging the game so he could play God. Very do as I say and not as I do of him. Maybe there's a correlation between RFK Jr. wanting to ban antipsychotics and antidepressants, place those people on rehabilitation camps, and the Neuralink implants. They could be using these people as test subjects. From there, who knows what they could control them into doing, what they could turn them into. Deepseek was propaganda to devalue Nvidia stocks. Deepseek initially claimed a meager $6 million spent right after Trump. Altman and their team of buddies announced Project Stargate in polar disproportion to the humongous $500 billion promise of potential from Stargate, which, among other things, sought to disrupt a technological threat posed by China regarding AI. As far as I know, all Nvidia GPUs are manufactured in Taiwan, which is a pressing issue for the CCP, given that they're allied to the United States. The timing of this Deepseek craze, which appears in relative terms to be rather insignificant and directly impacted Taiwan and the United States, is very interesting in the broader geopolitical technology space. I know some people will be like, but it's a private company, etc., etc. However, under the CCP regime, very little truly belongs to private companies unless it's consistent with the CCP's agenda. I don't think the public release of Deepseek was intended to crash the stocks, but it was definitely a welcomed side effect. China's using this period of United States instability to leak info to United States citizens about how advanced China actually is. The United States depicts China as some third world developing country with no human rights that the United States is intellectually, economically, morally, militarily, etc. superior to. This used to be backed up by the fact that United States manufacturers want their products as cheap as possible, both to cut down on production costs and make previously durable items flimsy and shitty. They'd outsource to China and buy the lowest possible quality from the manufacturing plants and just chalk it up to, well, that's what you get when you buy from China, while banning any technology or products that would compete with United States companies. Now, within months, China has unveiled their 6th-gen fighter aircraft, which shows America they're not the top military. Redbook has exploded as a popular social media app in the United States, which has exposed US citizens to Chinese citizens and shown that the culture and government of China is significantly different than what American propaganda has shown, as well as some of the insane technology that they have commercially available. Plus, necessities like food and shelter are affordable. Deepseek is released on United States markets, and while they weren't entirely transparent about the total cost, it still easily cost a fraction of OpenAI, has comparable accuracy, is open source, and can be run on a local machine, eliminating the need for massive data centers, producing huge carbon footprints, and wasting water in droughts, while exposing that the entire AI industry in the United States is an enormous Ponzi scheme. And now it's also on the ban list. China is acknowledging that the United States empire has fallen, and China is positioning itself to fill the void left behind when the US collapses. Alien/time travelers kidnapping people. What if the aliens or the time travelers are kidnapping people they know no one will find ever, like people from a boat lost at sea, or an airplane that is about to crash, or someone that got lost in the woods? If I was either alien or time traveler, I would consider doing that to be low profile and not get unnecessary attention from media, government agencies, or general population. This is assuming they want people for testing reasons, aliens, or just as labor, repopulation, or just be saved to live in the future, maybe to restore humanity after some apocalyptic event. Time travelers. Am I going too far on this one? Android cameras are designed to give you body dysmorphia. I've used about 5 Android phones in my life, as well as 3 iPhones, and I swear to God, every photo I've ever taken of myself or of someone else always looks horrible on an Android phone. iPhone cameras tend to be relatively flattering in capturing my appearance while staying realistic in terms of my flaws, whereas Android phones tend to dial up the sharpness by 100. A few months ago, I was using my boyfriend's phone to take ID photos of me, and I swear I looked like a troglodyte. Every single photo of me taken had highlighted pores and blackheads I didn't even know existed, made my skin look somehow both washed out and looked like I had jaundice at the same time, and made me look like I have a unibrow. And this happens every single time, and I have no idea why. I feel like I'm going crazy because my iPhone or even old Blackberries never do this, but somehow either Google is out for me and wants to serve me a slice of humble pie, or I really am just that ugly looking in real life. Dead internet theory is pretty real, particularly in places like Reddit and Twitter, where text-based arguments are the name of the game. Do you ever see an opinion that's insanely out there and nobody you know in real life has, and it gets a significant amount of positive engagement? I'm starting to think that part of it is some psyop to sow division and general depression. LMAO. Yeah, there's definitely something to it. You see these bizarrely extreme takes getting tons of upvotes or retweets, but they don't reflect any conversations you've had in real life. It's like the internet's version of astroturfing, whether it's bots, paid actors, or just algorithms amplifying the most divisive content. It creates this illusion of consensus or widespread belief when it might not exist at all. And it's not even necessarily one big coordinated effort. The way engagement-based platforms work means that the most emotionally charged or polarizing content naturally rises to the top. It's like the whole system is designed to keep people arguing and doom scrolling. Psyop or not, the effect is the same: more division, more disillusionment, and a lot of people feeling disconnected from reality. Edit. The text above is completely AI generated. I copied OP's post and pasted ChatGPT's response, and it got 4 upvotes. Trust nothing you read. The dead internet is 100% here. As these models continue to become more efficient, it's just going to get worse. I believe there needs to be a cultural shift away from online discourse and back to IRL community involvement. It's not just the bots. The internet is messing people on a psychological level. You'll sometimes hear about the loneliness epidemic. It's also destroying people's attention spans and, in my opinion, messing with people's self-image by training them to attribute their worth as a person to online engagement. I've noticed often you'll meet people who seem to live through their social media profiles, requiring people's validations for experiences to have had any meaning. I think there's a lot of benefits to the internet, but we as a society need to treat it more as a tool and less of a, framework for society itself. The Will Smith Oscar slap was planned and staged. Dude assaulted a comedian known for telling offensive jokes, then accepts an award a few minutes later. These events are so controlled, nobody would get on stage past security if they weren't supposed to. Then that slap looks so overdone and theatrical, followed by Smith not getting kicked out and Rock not pressing charges. Nah man, it was planned and acted out to get people talking about this event that nobody cares about anymore. I didn't even know the Oscars were happening until this happened, and now it's all the internet is talking about. Clearly staged, and honestly, it freaking worked because even we're talking about it. Debbie Downer. Today, I was told the expression originated as an SNL skit in 2004, but I swear it has been an expression my whole life. Can anyone find evidence of it before 2004 on SNL? This is the only Mandela effect that has ever seemed real to me, and I'm a little shaken. Debbie Downer has been around since I was a kid in the 80s. I had a cousin, Debbie, and we called her that in the 70s. This SNL nonsense is recency bias, not Mandela effect. Yes, I'm old. SNL used an existing term. Yeah, I called bullshit when I heard someone say it originated from SNL, and I'm a major SNL guy. This is one of the most bizarre contradictions in modern political psychology. Conspiracy theorists have for over a decade talked about implant chips, mark of the devil, corporate takeover of USA politics, New World Order, technocratic governance, censorship, and loss of anonymity, etc. They now celebrate Trump and Elon Musk, a technocrat who has actually put a chip in someone's brain and owns a massive social media outlet farming personal details and pushing bots, who with Trump seems to be undergoing a corporate takeover of USA government, currently purging federal agencies of staff, presumably to move their own in, and seem to be aiding and abetting Russian global interests in what seems like a transparent shift in the world order. On top of that, these conspiracy theorists give you 1001 reasons why electric vehicles are pointless and unsustainable, yet Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla Electric Vehicles, is the man. AKA doublethink. Doublethink is a process of indoctrination in which subjects are expected to simultaneously accept two conflicting beliefs as truth, often at odds with their own memory or sense of reality. Doublethink is related to but differs from hypocrisy. George Orwell coined the term doublethink as part of the fictional language of Newspeak in his 1949 dystopian novel, 1984. In the novel, its origins within the citizenry is unclear. While it could be partly a product of Big Brother's formal brainwashing programs, the novel explicitly shows people learning doublethink and newspeak due to peer pressure and a desire to fit in or gain status within the party, to be seen as a loyal party member. In the novel, for someone to even recognize, let alone mention, any contradiction within the context of the party line is akin to blasphemy and could subject that person to disciplinary action and the instant social disapproval of fellow party members. That makes me wonder if their, Trump-Musk, popularity is actually organic or manufactured. Popularity on that scale is always manufactured. The man has enough money to do anything he wants, including manufacturing opinions for others. That's true, but I don't think it's all about buying people's opinions. I think there could be a type of mind manipulation technology involved as well. That mind manipulation technology is all of the algorithms billionaires use to control opinion and popularity in social media. Have you ever asked why there is so much sensationalized propaganda on social media? The algorithms sway that way. They want us to hate each other and view them as heroes. If you don't believe that is the case and that your algorithms are more free than that, why don't we receive more videos from other countries? It's not views because they get more views. It's not even language because so many videos don't need the language. It's location filtering, which is innocent, but 100% confirms they have more control over what you see than you do. Yes, it is called the fire hose of falsehood. While it's not necessarily a technology, it is heavily facilitated by social media platforms like X, Facebook, and even now massive cable networks, news stations. What's the actual point of this post? Musk is a tool bag. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. The point is not that Musk is a tool bag, but that he and Trump are the exact thing alt-right conspiracy America has been warning about since the late 90s, early 2000s, yet somehow they got elected, and largely by Alex Jones fans and the like. There's a recession coming, and it's on purpose. The COVID recession saw a huge swing of the concentration of wealth. The recession allowed those with vast means to buy up even more, so when the market rebound came, the top saw incredible gains. I'm struggling to find figures to back that up, but one of them was the 10 richest people doubled their net worth after the pandemic recession. I think it's possible that the elite took that learning and are pushing America into another recession, one they can plan for and use to their advantage. Will use their vast buying power that is basically recession-proof to buy in the valley that they know is coming and complete their world domination on the market rebound. I say recession-proof because if Elon lost 50% of his net worth, he still has like $200 billion to sling around even if everything drops substantially. For the record, I'm planning on doing the same thing, just at like 0.00001% of the scale that these people operate in. Roblox Nazi predators. Roblox may seem like a kid's game on the surface, innocent looking. It can be pretty easy as an adult to write it off as just another innocent game, leaving its more sinister communities overlooked, promoting Nazi ideology, freaky antics, and inappropriate relationships. Brandon, his real name, went under the username Albert Hilarium, using his last name to begin a group called the Hilarium Dynasty, where everyone who wanted to be in the community had to change their last name to Hilarium. Getting attention in the SCP Roblox community, people began to notice and try to find out who Albert Hilarium really was, till finally a Discord message would reveal the disturbing side of the supposed leader. Of course, he denied it like all of them do on To Catch a Pred, but that didn't stop Cora Cat from diving even further into the investigation of his depraved ways, finding that he was messaging her sister, Yuki, a minor, trying to coerce her to please his twisted desires. She posed as another member of the community, gathering info on the suspected 20-year-old man who spent his days in the Roblox community chatting up young teens. Interestingly enough, he was running what was the equivalent to the Diddy parties but in Roblox, setting up secluded areas in the map where everyone would be unclothed and freaky. One girl even recounts her interaction with the community.
So I used to be really obsessed with SCP stuff for some reason, and I was at Group Recruiting Plaza. I was trying to find like SCP groups, and I saw Albert's group, and I joined and stuff. Everything was normal. But then once I got into the Discord server, and they'd say like really suggestive stuff, and they'd be like really weird to me and stuff. And Albert and all his little minions would say that he's like mean, so it's fine for him to joke about that kind of stuff. He'd just say really sexual things, and it made me really uncomfortable, but I was like, okay, whatever.
Peter Theo was man behind the curtain. Dude got mad at Gawker for saying he was gay and groomed Theo fellows for his harem, so he funded Hulk Hogan's $10 million six-tape lawsuit against them and took them out of business. Then he got mad at Silicon Valley Bank, so he had his founders fund spread a rumor they were failing and had all their backed startups pull their funds, which caused a run on SVB and caused the SVB to fail. Meanwhile, he was shorting SVB stock, profiting on the downfall he set in motion.
Now he's mad at Democrats for trying to tax his $5 billion plus IRA accounts, so he funded Trump's campaign, handpicked JD Vance to take over when Trump inevitably steps down on January 22nd, 2027, giving Vance 2 years minus a day plus 2 more 4-year terms, pulled in Elon to add more fuel and chaos, and was a major funder of the Twitter acquisition directly and through VC funds, and pulling in their PayPal buddy Sachs and his VC funds to join as well, and is giving Trump most of the cabinet picks to dismantle the executive branch of the government, almost like this SVB bank run, but on the United States government. And I guarantee he has many investment positions in play that are designed to take advantage of any chaos and downfall, all while he quietly pulls the strings behind the scenes. Trump's transition team not taking GSA money, office space, or technology because it is privately funded, is and all certainly funded by Theo through shell companies, Musk directly because he doesn't care, and Sachs because he wants a cabinet position. Given that all three are historically backed by Saudi, Chinese, and Russian state and private fund LPs, there is a whole lot of red flags here. Political leaning aside, we should be a lot more focused on Theo, German-born, Musk, South African-born, and Sachs, South African-born, pulling the strings of the incoming administration. Plane crash questions. I find it very strange that the news is suddenly talking about plane crashes far more often than before. Is there an increase in plane crashes, or is something else going on? According to the National Transportation Safety Board, there were 62 incidents in January of this year and 25 so far in February. Last year there were 80 incidents in January and 93 in February. If incidents are going down, why is the news making these crashes such a big deal? I understand that the news attracts more viewers with crazy stories, that's just the nature of their business. But why this? Is there a goal to landlock people, stopping them from leaving the country? After the first crash, I immediately thought of the drone sightings. Was that story purposely reported on first for connections to be made? Was it the reason for highlighting these crashes when crashes have decreased from last year and planes have historically become far safer? I'm trying to understand this. It's spanning every news source, both left and right-winged. I've heard more about this than Trump's presidency. I don't avidly watch the news, which is far different from his last time in office. What does this mean? American Legion. This popped in my head recently. A long time ago, I used to do stand-up. I was smoking outside this club with this older guy, and he told me something strange. It always stuck with me. He asked me if I wanted to hear a conspiracy theory that was actually true. This was long ago. My story won't make any sense if I try to say what he said. So basically, he said after World War I, the American Legion marched on Washington because the government never delivered on their promises to the soldiers, and I guess they took over the executive branch, and I don't know. I guess people after that were puppets? I think I'm butchering it. It was so long ago. Has anyone ever heard about this? He told me he wrote a paper about it in college, and then the FBI showed up to his door, then asked him a bunch of questions about it. I remember he would say something and I would laugh sometimes, and he would just stare at me and say he was serious. Totally freaked me out. Is this a real thing? Does anyone have any reading on this, or was this guy just crazy? If this post isn't allowed, I'm sorry, feel free to delete. I'm just curious. Fashion comes from cheapskate, greedy brands. Jeans and fashion has gone to hell. Levi jeans have become so bad, and their jeans have become all ugly and skinny / taper / tight, and that has become the fashion and hasn't moved in more than a decade. My theory is that they push skinny jeans / tapered / slim jeans as fashion, so they can charge the same price as normal straight ones or looser jeans and save the money on materials and weight. If they save just a bit of material on one pair, after a bunch, that's a lot of material saved and weight on shipping and etc. The 1% are dismantling the public health system with intent. With the advances in AI and robotics, there is less need for the human workforce. The population is currently too large for the 1% to control effectively. There is too much unpredictability. By dismantling the public health system, this country will be less prepared for the next epidemic. With an ill-prepared public healthcare system, the number of fatalities will be exponentially higher. While everyone will be affected, the number of fatalities will be higher in the poor demographics. This will be an effective means to eliminate a workforce that is no longer necessary. Food for thought. The end goal is clear. Strip the government of power, replace human labor with AI, privatize resources, and keep the masses distracted, fighting over cultural nonsense, while the real power players take everything that matters, This ties into removing the federal workforce, which imposes regulations, and why it's so important to these psychopaths to have the government gutted. We are watching the largest wealth and land grab in modern history. The billionaires know what is coming. That is why they are hoarding wealth like never before and building bunkers instead of solutions. AI is going to wipe out jobs. Climate change is turning once livable places into wastelands. Water, farmland, and key minerals are the only things that will matter in the future, and they are locking it all down before the public catches on. They also know you cannot just pull the rug out from under billions of people without a backlash. That is where a war will come in. I believe they are setting the stage for a massive conflict, and not just for profit, but as a controlled population reset. The wars we are seeing now are just a warm-up. When the real event happens, it will be devastating, and when it is over, the survivors will be easier to control. I believe this will also be concurrent with another, far more deadly pandemic, like the Spanish flu. This is not some wild conspiracy, it is a pattern. Strip the government, replace the workforce, hoard resources, stoke division, then let war take care of the rest. When the dust settles, they will own everything that matters, and everyone else will be left scrambling for whatever scraps remain. We're 89 seconds to midnight on the doomsday clock. Spend time with your loved ones. American slavery. Do you ever feel like the American system is just to ensure we work as much as possible? The medical field is in on it. They lose anything that shows that I am disabled. I have been working multiple full-time jobs since 15, and they will do anything and everything to make sure I continue doing that. Doesn't that sound crazy? I thought so too, but there are just too many coincidences at this point. If the docs aren't in on it, they are recklessly incompetent. Mind Control 2.0. Are we becoming digital puppets? Imagine a future where our very thoughts aren't our own. A future where brain-computer interfaces are used not just to help paralyzed patients or enhance memory, but to control the masses. Recent developments suggest that this isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. Consider this: a Chinese programmer named Hu Lezi burned over 2,550 ETH, around $6.8 million in high-stakes blockchain transactions. His on-chain messages weren't random. They warned that Chinese companies are already deploying brain-computer weapons designed to turn people into puppets or complete slaves to the digital machine. This isn't some fringe conspiracy theory, it's a warning sign from someone claiming first-hand knowledge of mind control tech. Then there's the fact that China is aggressively ramping up its brain chip program. According to Cointelegraph, the Chinese government has established a national committee to develop standards for BCIs, technology that has already demonstrated astonishing capabilities, like enabling a monkey to control a robotic arm with nothing but its thoughts. That's not science fiction, it's happening right now. But it doesn't stop there. Wired recently detailed China's controversial approach to BCIs. Unlike in the United States, where companies like Neuralink are focusing primarily on medical applications, China's pushing the envelope by exploring non-invasive BCIs for cognitive enhancement. This means applications for attention modulation, memory regulation, and even military uses. In an era dominated by AI and digital information, some world leaders believe that controlling the end user is the only way to maintain order. They envision a future where signing up for the chip means stepping into a digital existence, where your life is online and monitored, and those who refuse could be pushed to the margins, much like indigenous peoples confined to reservations in the past. And if you're still not convinced, consider Havana Syndrome. A GAO blog post explains how Americans affected by these mysterious symptoms might struggle to get proper care. What if such symptoms are not just random occurrences, but the result of covert experiments with advanced BCI or mind control technologies? This possibility ties all these threads together into a chilling narrative. The World Economic Forum recently reported on the explosive growth of the brain-computer interface markets and the associated risks. They warned that as this technology expands, we might be on the brink of a dystopian future where our minds become battlegrounds for control, and the only choice is either to submit to a fully digital, regulated existence or be left behind. These aren't isolated incidents or outlandish theories. Multiple reports from Cointelegraph, Wired, GAO, and the World Economic Forum are converging on the same disturbing possibility. We could soon be living in a world where our cognitive autonomy is sacrificed at the altar of technological progress. What's the scariest conspiracy theory you've ever heard? This is a regional one, but the idea that Robert Pickton, the pig farm serial killer, didn't act alone. The theory goes that the farm was a common party spot for the Vancouver Police Department and Hells Angels, and that was the reason he got away with it for as long as he did. Recently, he died in jail, and the families of his victims are furious he was not able to testify. There were also a lot of sketchy things to do with evidence. When you start looking, it's pretty convincing. The Dark Forest Theory. We can't find any evidence of extraterrestrial life because the smart ones are hiding, and dumb ones have been killed by something else. That r/Ask Reddit is mostly a data scraping tool used by marketing companies to farm data from the masses based on what company X is selling, i.e. Disney wants to know what movie to remake next, so let's pay someone to ask about favorite Disney films from their childhood and log the responses. Actually, I just made that up, but I have no doubt it's happening. That all this doomer, humanity is the real virus/monster, we are destroying our planet like a cancer type of thinking was made up and spread by corporations to make regular people feel equally culpable for climate change. I'm not killing the planet and you aren't either. Something like 70% of all global emissions are caused by 100 corporations. They are killing the planet, but no one will go after them because humanity was a mistake, and that cynicism is what will actually do us in. One theory for why there were so many serial killers in the 70s and 80s was due to lead in gasoline. The flip side to this is, though, the reason for the sharp decline in crime in the 90s is due to the removal of lead in gasoline and the decrease in use of lead paint. Here's a new one for you. Spontaneous life is actually extremely common in the universe. We talk about the primordial ooze, where the first proteins formed into a cell and all that, but this theory states that life actually spontaneously arises on a microscopic level constantly. Well, constantly on a universal timescale at least. Not all of it is carbon-based, and in fact, life has formed in many different ways that we don't recognize as true life. However, there is one critical thing that acts as a gateway: reproduction. Almost all life that is spontaneously created lives a short time and dies without reproducing. On our world, there have been 2 instances of spontaneous life that were able to reproduce. The precursor that led to all life as we know it on Earth over millions and millions of years. And number 2, viruses. That the public school system sucks because it was deliberately designed to fail kids, forcing them to shuffle off to the factories once their dreams are crushed at graduation. The Victorian era conspiracy education plan still works today. The one about Bitcoin being invented by an AI, which is now accumulating a huge amount of computer power by greedy humans building big Bitcoin mining centers to make money, but all they are doing is building an ultra resilient network for the AI to run on. The AI also has a huge amount of wealth to now pay anonymously to humans to do its dirty work in the physical world. A superintelligence at some point wants more computation and robot arms. Given robot arms aren't all that great, money is the next best thing, as humans will do anything for bigger numbers on their bank account. For me, it's truly terrifying. Not really a conspiracy, but from the most existentially terrifying book series I've ever read. The Dark Force Hypothesis as an explanation for the Fermi Paradox. Essentially, because of the speed of light, communication between stellar civilizations can break down very easily. Chains of suspicion will arise that go very deep because you have no idea what the other one is doing or saying in real time. Because of the chains of suspicion built by the speed of light, you have no idea whether someone you can see is malicious or benevolent. Even if you're more advanced than someone you have detected, you have no idea if they have experienced a technological explosion like we did in the 20th century after you measured them. If you can see another civilization, then at some point they will be able to see you, and you have no idea when that will happen, even if you're more advanced. Letting someone else know you exist and letting them continue to exist are both dangerous to you, if neither communication nor silence will work. Once you know of the existence of another civilization, you're left with just one option: destroy anyone you see. The universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches that block the path and trying to tread without sound. Even breathing is done with care. The hunter has to be careful because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters like him. If he finds other life, another hunter, an angel or a demon, a delicate infant or a tottering old man, a fairy or a demigod, there's only one thing he can do: open fire and eliminate them. In this forest, hell is other people, an eternal threat that any life that exposes its own existence will be swiftly wiped out. This is the picture of cosmic civilization. It's the explanation for the Fermi Paradox. Hide well and cleanse will. The reason we haven't found aliens is because any advanced civilization destroys itself. The same evolutionary traits that allowed humanity to make it to its current point are also the traits that will lead it to its inevitable downfall, in my opinion. It's not particularly scary, but go read a bit of Commander David Fravor's statement about his F-18 crew that were called to check on an object that they had been tracking on the USS Nimitz for weeks in the early 2000s. It was dropping from 80,000 to 20,000 in mere seconds. When they managed to begin tracking it, the radar had trouble picking it up. There was no infrared heat signature for the propulsion of the craft as it hovered over the ocean, and it was pulling G's no pilot could make without a full blackout. It disappeared from view of both planes and popped back onto the radar 60 miles away in less than a minute. His crew also took a different video years later of a similar object. Really makes you wonder. Then later, a whole bunch of fighter pilots came out and said strange cubes and a see-through globe were flying very close to their planes. In general, UFO conspiracy theories are kind of strange. At first, you think it's all BS, and most of it really is, but there are also loads of stories out there that are true head-scratchers where groups of credible observers spotted objects that could not possibly be swamp gas, human, or the planet Venus. There are also many stories like this too in South America, Iran, the lead engineer of U-2 spy plane. What's scarier than shadow governments and deep states pulling all the levers? That there aren't. It's nobody. We're all just a bunch of apes with opposable thumbs, and nobody knows what we're doing. That is what it has felt like as I grown in my career. Bigger and more consequential orgs I've worked for, still no one who knows what's going on. The 10-year challenge on Facebook in 2019, which encouraged Facebook users to upload pictures from 2009 and a current one from 2019, was actually a front by programmers to gain data and examples to train facial recognition and age progression software. Yet, though one I'll believe right away, companies such as Facebook make their money from data. Pictures that further AI recognition equals money. But I copy-pasted that. I don't consent to Facebook using any of my pictures. All of the genealogy websites are a government-ran program, and the real purpose is to have a database for solving crimes. They knew that there would be no way to have people willingly give over their DNA for that purpose, so they genealogy as the motivation for people to give up the goods. We also pay for it, so it's a double win for the government. Charles Manson was introduced to LSD in federal prison in Chicago as part of MKUltra. When he moved to San Francisco, he kept in touch with the same parole officer and checked in regularly at the free clinic at Tate and Ashbury, where he brought the girls to get treated for STDs and re-up his acid supply. That clinic was a perfect storm of several different individuals and programs. CIA as an organization involved with the free clinic as a way of keeping tabs on the counterculture movement. The actual CIA field agents who loved the benefit of hippie culture like free love and free girls, and the medical/psychiatric true believers who really thought LSD was going to change the world. They thought Manson was a perfect example of a violent criminal who had been successfully converted to peace and love through modern medicine. Manson, for his part, was just a con man who realized he could fast talk these college squares and keep himself in the good graces of the law and free LSD. He could attract girls with a combination of bad boy charm, free drugs, prison-taught pimping, and the co-opting of new age language and goodwill. When the drugs dried up, he started trading girls for drugs to the bikers, got more into amphetamines than LSD, and it all started going to shit. Great book about it, Chaos by Tom O'Neill. Prince/King Charles is a prolific prank caller and goes by the pseudonym Frank Garrett. When making these crude calls, he calls people around the world and cusses them out using a southern drawl. There's tons of these calls people have recorded and posted on YouTube. If you ever receive a call from a Frank Garrett who makes no sense and repeatedly cusses you out, there is a good chance it is in fact Prince/King Charles. This intrigues me. What is the connection to King Charles though? I mean, why is Frank Garrett suspected to be King Charles and not someone else? Also, what's the connection to the actual Frank Garrett? Death row? ? I don't have the exact source, but apparently the calls were traced to a town called Stowell, OK, where he owned some kind of pole barn business called Dkane Construction with a partner. There were pics of him making these calls that leaked and were quickly deleted, and a forum site discussing and confirming he was the owner of Dkane Construction and their local number being routed to his UK number was quickly taken down. I don't think it is connected to the actual Frank Garrett. However, if you look at this video on the Frank Garrett Center, you will see the comments don't really make sense, as they are old quotes from Prince/King Charles's prank calls to people. I guess those people commenting are fans of his pranks. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, is actually the son of Fidel Castro. First, Justin looks like a young Fidel, obviously, and nothing like Pierre Trudeau. And Pierre and Margaret Trudeau were rumored to be swingers. They were in Cuba in early 1971, around February or March, and Justin was born Christmas of that year, about 9 months later. Are you suggesting there was some infidelity? The true conspiracy against stevia. The sugar lobbyists managed to get stevia outlawed decades ago in the United States with false and negative press. Those laws were eventually trashed and the claims were proven to be BS. It's now legal. The stevia plant is up to 100 times sweeter than sugar, 0 calories, doesn't rot teeth, all natural, and lowers blood pressure. It could replace sugar in all soft drinks and make people healthier. But the sugar companies still have a huge hold on the market and they pay off politicians. Theo Von and Tim Pool are government assets. There has been a growing speculation on Theo Von's origins and his recent motives that have led some to conclude that he is being paid to push Russian propaganda. Many in his comments are turning on the once beloved comedian, calling him a puppet, and saying that he is banned from ever coming to European countries. All this sentiment stirred up due to a tweet that seemed to bash President Zelensky of Ukraine, after a hectic meeting at the White House that went viral between Zelensky, JD Vance, and Trump. Theo decided to tweet out, "Tell that guy to give us our tax dollars back and get the fuck out of here. Disrespectful guy using our money and using his own people." This of course led some in his audience to clap back at him, saying that he was trying to control and change the narrative, making Ukraine seem like the bad guy and having no accountability for Russia whatsoever. Facing all that backlash, he decided to take the tweet down, as his core audience began to see him for who he truly was. Lifelong fans began saying that he has no compassion for the people of Ukraine, as he is well known to have powerful connections. Even being invited to the inauguration, his opinions seem forced, according to some in his Twitter replies. TikTok also has been calling him out for a while, claiming that he plays dumb at convenient times in order to avoid quote-unquote politics. But when the money's right, he decides to open his mouth, making a political stance like this one. Though he's not the only one being accused of being paid off, as Tim Pool is facing similar allegations, although his have been semi-confirmed, as he was found to be paid off by the Russian government in order to spew propaganda. An indictment by the DOJ alleged that a company from Tennessee was given $10 million in funding towards Russian propaganda, and it turns out that that company was paying Tim Pool as a part of a Russian government influence op. All this being done underneath Tim Pool's nose, because apparently he knew nothing about it. Tenet Media was just like any other agency to him, so he took on the deal. He reportedly made up to $400,000 a month based on the contract. Bob Ross Theory. Other than being a classic television icon with a tranquil vibe, Bob Ross had been the victim of many theories, one of them being that each one of his paintings is a depiction of the last place his victims were alive before he took their life, or the location in which they were buried. All those times you saw him gently taking his brush and pushing it up against the canvas, he was reliving his experience and immortalizing it forever to be seen on television and later be uploaded onto the internet. At first, thought to bring a warm presence to PBS programming due to just being a really chill guy and great at narrating everything in an almost ASMR tone, people loved watching Bob as it brought them peace to a chaotic world. Though some say that as time went on, his demeanor changed and his paintings got darker. Religious people believe that his paintings contained hidden messages tied to the occult as well. The drones are coming. AI drones will soon patrol the streets 24/7 to better protect us. Well, only according to billionaires. People like Peter Theo are heavily investing in drone technology, as it has shown to be a game changer in the Russia-Ukraine war, being able to track down a soldier easily with the help of a vaping enthusiast. Yep, through the use of FPV drones, people are beginning to see the different uses for this technology. One of them being they should be constantly surveilling the American population, as they would be able to keep up with high-speed chases very easily and lead to fewer accidents on the road, as cops are known to chase no matter what it takes, leading to innocent people being caught in the middle of it all. A drone would in theory be able to track them down efficiently, all while it's being controlled by an AI trained to spot crime. Worry has also come after people found out that Peter Theo's father, Klaus, was part of the Nazi party and had to move to South Africa after the war, where he used the slave labor to complete government contracts for materials. These materials ended up being uranium for atomic bombs, leading to radiation poisoning in the miners who had no idea that they were being exposed to harmful substances. So yeah, a not so great legacy. His company, Palantir, even has a popular ad that depicts the future of warfare, showing drones at the forefront. This company has also used their tech to hunt down illegal immigrants in the United States like children, stripping them away from their parents and putting them in cages. I mean, the guy was an early investor in facial recognition AI. He really believes that the technology will be heavily used in the future, enough to invest in them. The Gooner Conspiracy. Addiction is hard. From cigs to rigs, a lot of people have different habits. Enjoying the finer things in life is okay sometimes, but when does it become shameful? Well, that's where the great Gooner Conspiracy comes into play. There has been a phenomenon online known as the Gooners, a group of like-minded individuals that are pleasing and are proud about it to the point that they will go protest for a victim in their community. Take the example of the viral Goonacide video, depicting a man pulling up to the bikini barista, and while thinking hard about what he's going to order, his pants disappeared, causing the woman to call him out and shame him, recording him, ending with the woman recording him driving off in what is referred to as the Goonmobile. He would then drive off and find a place to park. He called his brother, telling him that he had done something bad, ultimately taking his own life. His brother would end up finding him. The barista's video went viral on social media and attracted many in the meme community, leading to protests and meetups about the famous Goonacide event. One creator took it a little too far though, and drove up reenacting the event completely, crying at the staff that they could have prevented it. A lot of people on TikTok have come up with many theories surrounding this whole goon epidemic, and a lot of people have said that its origins started on Insta, where people find that there are served a lot of this goon type content without ever seeking it out, or even anything close like that, even popping up after specifically blocking accounts and suggestions. Theories on whether or not AI has something to do with it is also speculated, as they believe that AI may push it out in order to keep the public brain rotted, as well as government involvement being included in part of this conspiracy, putting forth the idea that this Gooner craze is being done to destroy the youth, carried out by a foreign government like the CCP to get young people addicted to this type of stuff in order to overtake the West. But what do you guys think about this one? Is it just a result of all of our technological advancements and we finally have what's the equivalent to crack cocaine but on technology? eCuerpos, a strange site that claimed to sell body parts nearly 20 years. I'm guessing either someone will have a quick explanation or there will never be an explanation. Either way, I doubt it's real, but the site's links lead to other very strange websites. I would only visit any of these sites through the Wayback Machine nowadays, so please browse at your own risk. To back up, about 20 years ago, a friend of mine, he was quite odd, told me about ecuerpos.com. It was in Spanish and claimed to be selling cadaver parts worldwide. I didn't want anything to do with the site, so I didn't really engage much with my friend while he was showing off his find, but it always stuck in the back of my mind. Looking at it so much later through the Wayback Machine, I see links that link to blogs that discuss head transplants, artificial life, and other bizarre philosophical thinking. I'm not sure how much use linking these sites would be, as you can go down these rabbit holes very easily by starting out with eCuerpos. Has anyone ever heard of this? I really don't believe this was ever real, but it is truly something very strange and a bit disturbing if you let your mind even slightly play into it. Idiocracy is real. Idiocracy is a film that came out in 2006, taking place in the future. The plot follows United States Army librarian Joe Bowers and Rita, who undergo a government hibernation experiment. Joe and Rita awake 500 years later in a dystopian anti-intellectual society, where the President of America is an extremely entertaining person who makes everything a spectacle and show, as well as the entirety of the population being low IQ, including those who make up the United States government, leading to a mass famine that Joe, the smartest person left on Earth, is left to solve. Has this become our reality? A lot of people think so, as many comment sections reference the film and how we are on the same trajectory, with megacorps taking over like Amazon and Walmart, as well as people in government having ties to the entertainment industry, like the WWE lady and the Apprentice guy. Not to mention they predicted brain rot, something very common in all scroll type social medias. Poor people thrived in this society, leading to an increase in babies that are not very smart, as the smart people decided not to reproduce as much, overthinking it, leading to a large population of anti-intellectuals who depend on these megacorps like Brando and Costco, never questioning the power of the companies that control everything about their lives. Taco Bell, AOL, and Time Warner were somehow able to integrate into the United States government. The bro culture in the movie could also parallel how the whole Andrew Tate movement started. I know for a fact there was a seahorse emoji. Here's why. I don't really understand Reddit, so sorry if I did this wrong, but it just came to my attention that there's a Mandela effect about the non-existent seahorse emoji, but I have proof of remembering it. In around late 2020, I had an ASMR account on TikTok. It was called Coral ASMR, and I would make ASMR videos with a homemade toy called Squishy Water Bottles, but that's besides the point. Now there is a coral emoji, but at that time there wasn't one yet, so instead I used the seahorse emoji. It was yellow with greenish blue fins. But I know for a fact that it was a seahorse. It was facing left because I remember I put the seahorse before Coral ASMR, and it was facing away from it. 2016 and 2017 are when we first started seeing posts about missing emojis, hiking emoji, robbery emoji, swordfish emoji. We appear to be on the verge of having the seahorse emoji join this group, if it plans out and is agreed upon in large numbers. There have been a number of other missing emoji posts, but the three listed are historically the only ones to have garnered the amount of support necessary to be recognized as a legitimate Mandela effect using the large group of people test. In the last 6 months, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and Revelations have changed. I'm mad. To preface Revelations, the Revelations of John is my favorite book in the Bible. I'm dark, love some horror. I also work at a church, at which I recently hosted a Bible study into Revelations. It was back in September, so truly less than 6 months ago. I know that book back to front. I've read it at least 12 to 15 times, and in different versions of the Bible, as wording changes between versions. I even have a Hebrew text Bible from the 1800s. It's credible. I know damn well that's when the detail, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, it's always been pestilence, famine, war, and death. Why the if has it now changed to conquest, famine, war, and death? Conquest and war are the same concept. The horsemen are metaphorical in nature. They are the 4 combining factors that can take down entire civilizations. Conquest is ridiculous. It's absolutely not the original. I was so certain that me and my pastor read literally every version of the Bible we had. The pastor, the professional Bible reader, is also certain it was pestilence. P.S. I actually really hate Mandela effects. They hurt my brain and question my existence. $19 Fortnite card. This is in reference to the massive meme from TikTok creator I'm So Fate that blew up during the corona pandemic. After finding out about the speed up feature from his daughter, it became his primary tool for creating videos, leading to his giveaways in which he would happen to create the iconic line, which would go on to become part of TikTok meme history as it became popular as a sound and used by many creators, like at Ethan Elk, who popularized it at first. After all the popularity and success of the meme, you would think he would be compensated for it, but it didn't bring much but hate and negativity to his page, which he worked hard to navigate. Suddenly, people began creeping into his personal life as well, and began questioning whether he was currently getting cheated on by his wife. These speculations turned out to be true, as he would post content relating to it directly, dropping hints. Not only this, I'm So Fate publicly came out to announce that he was going to become homeless very soon, as his wife was having an affair. Through all this, he was still working through his issues and saw the light at the end of the tunnel, even having to become homeless at one point. But the TikTok community came together and helped him through it, donating cash to his Cash App and even making a GoFundMe account that reached $9,000 to help him find permanent housing, as he didn't feel welcome in his cousin's home. Finally, he was able to land a job and began posting videos as normal again. But something very strange happened. Little by little, he began resenting his most popular meme that made him famous, and hated the $19 Fortnite line, as it seemed to have been his peak and the only thing they knew him for, as nothing else of his had reached that level again, not even close. His haters would flood into his lives, telling him he fell off and that he was a one-hit wonder. Do the $19 Fortnite line thing. He chose bitterness, and until today, he still gets into petty arguments with his commenters and gets angry at everybody in his TikTok lives if they don't interact with him in chat, which is just odd. All this just left a bad taste in his viewers' mouths, and they began trolling him even more, leading to further crash outs and insanity, to the point he just turned off most of his comments. Virgin Fest. This was an event that was supposed to be held at a tattoo shop, where an online incel community was supposed to meet up and listen to some of their favorite artists in their incel community sing about feeling lonely and angry. This event was supposed to be for edgelords, so many on the far left began noticing, as most of the artists on the set list were posting edgy racist type memes for a while. Right before performing, Antifa of Atlanta would come out and expose all the weirdo behavior they had been revealed for doing online, saying that though most of those attending would be harmless losers, allowing for any group that praises the Elliot Rodgers of the world would just lead to more of those types of events due to them being glorified in any type of way. The freaks decided to move the event to a park ultimately and began setting everything up. It's interesting how the so-called incel community ended up looking like a bunch of hippies though. All the comments guessing what it would look like were right. Everything ended up being harmless, even giving into authority and taking pics with the police officers. To be honest, it really just looks like these people need a community to be there for them and use the whole incel thing as an excuse, because at the end of the day, these racist meme posters attended an Asian guy's concert alongside people of color to sing. It's like a big choir group celebrating being chronically online. AstroWorld. Opinions on the conspiracy theories regarding Travis Scott and the festival. Does anyone else feel the demonic, soul-snatching, hell portal conspiracy theories revolving around this fest take away from the severity of it? I don't think that's these people's aim, but every time I see someone talk about the video of Travis's humming while the person being carried away is him sucking their soul and everyone dying in some demonic ritual, I almost get angry, because I feel like it just takes away from the real issues behind the fest and the fact that there are people mourning the loss of their friends, siblings, children, and so on. Though it was shitty of him to go, would some guy who just sucked the souls out of 9 people go to Dave & Buster's after to celebrate? I think it's more so just a prime example of how the rich don't care about the working class people who got them to where they are now. Just a way to cut corners to get as much money as possible, and blatant carelessness and disrespect for human life. What do you think about the theories surrounding this? I believe it was a satanic ritual, as opposed to what many people think. We aren't trying to downplay the event or use it for our own personal agenda. I've been mentally effed from this ever since hearing about it. Some posters in this thread said it's a trauma response to hide from the truth. I actually think it's the opposite. Believing this event was purposely orchestrated by the depraved elite is a much bigger pill to swallow than believing it was due to mere negligence. It's not easy to grasp how evil people can be. Tons of fans still refuse to believe that Travis wanted people to die. It's something they can't fathom. In my opinion, this was a ritual. Saying that this was only a result of greed and incompetence is missing the mark completely. Interesting, when making the post, it was never my intention to have it come across that anyone who believes it's a ritual is doing so to downplay or make it some personal gain opportunity. It's important that everyone takes all of the details in and tries to come to a conclusion on why this happened so we can stop it from happening again. 9 people, hopefully no more, dying at a concert is something that should never happen at any show of any genre and artist. It's deplorable. Totally agree that the upper class of people are evil, don't give a F about those they deem beneath them. Travis fans will be a lost cause in this situation for sure. They deride him like they're paid to do it, as if he wouldn't allow the same thing to go down and hurt all of them too. He will never be on their side, but you can't convince them otherwise. In a sense, I'm glad that at least the people who subscribe to these thoughts recognize there's something very wrong going on. Add to this the theatrical setting, the disorienting sounds, the dehydration, and absolute terror of being there, that body heat, the screaming and death, actual pyrotechnics and fire imagery. I can see why it spooks people out and evokes an aesthetic of hell, from indulgence and debauchery to terror and death, especially for people who were actually there and are experiencing PTSD and disorientation. I can understand feeling as if they've been touched by genuine evil. To me, corporate greed and the financial preying upon children/families in times like these is truly vile. The corner cutting and apathy that leads to the extent of the suffering for the sake of profit, and all of that does represent everything that is evil to me. So some people in charge may as well be. They do worse than demons do, real or imaginary. Everything in the next few years is going to boil down to class inequality and the wealthy having no regard for others because they are always going to be okay. We are in a time of petrifying turmoil in our society, and most aren't even aware that we are in the thick of it right now, but the realization will come swiftly. It's moments like this that really illuminate society's problems, and young people are waking up. I am very glad to see this very logical take on the events and what transpired. 10 years ago, if this had happened, we would not see as much awareness about the class structures playing a part in something like this happening. These people truly deserve to be overthrown and their wealth distributed. No one is entitled to this level of power, fame, adoration, or wealth. He has proven time and again that he is not deserving, and him having this platform is dangerous and deadly. Solidarity within the working class is galvanizing in younger and younger people as the horrifying realities of what happens when we place the wealthy on a pedestal comes to the fore. Fuck Travis Scott. These young, vibrant, beautiful people did not have to suffer and lose their lives. Travis Scott and Drake grew up with wealth, and it was much easier for them to get rap careers than people who actually came from poverty. How people continue to think these people care about their fans and their welfare, I don't know. It reminds me of when I found out Kid Rock was from a wealthy family after he peddled his straight out of the trailer persona for years. These rich kids pretend they know what it's like, but are so disassociated from real life and real consequences they can't handle it when shit gets real or when something is actually their fault. Trevino Theory. Trevino is a 35-year-old woman on TikTok who likes to go live and act a fool. From spilling all her family secrets to being a bad parent to her daughters, she is quickly becoming TikTok's #1 drama queen, going viral every week for outdoing herself. Though the internet likes to underplay her flaws, specifically her audience, who support her and shower her with gifts, almost feeding into her ego and creating an uglier monster who only cares about herself, buying designer clothes, only to turn her back on her own daughters when they ask for new vids, leaving it up to a whole other woman, then holding her accountable for supporting her own daughter. It's pure insanity, but like many other fads, the internet eats it right up.
Do you have beds?
Well, I don't live with my mom.
But at your mom's house?
No.
I'm going to Zelle you. I'm going to give you money for, I want a bed, 2 mattresses, 2 of them. I want a headboard and 2 nightstands. I'm going to order that before you leave this house today. And I'm going to insert the clip of the receipt.
There's a story behind that, okay?
Please tell me why your children don't have beds.
Because my mom was actually going to go look at a furniture store. Because I don't go anywhere publicly at all.
Because you're just that bitch.
Literally. No, like I really don't. Like if I go out, I'm gonna get noticed.
Yeah, no.
And if I don't have my security guard, I'm not going anywhere. My mom...
In all reality, Ash is a legitimate creep who should probably be inside of a prison cell, as she has said some very inappropriate things in her TikTok lives that nobody has held her accountable for. A known inmate hopper, she has been accused of introducing her kids with multiple men from prison. leading many to believe that she puts them in dangerous situations, and even one live she asks a man to not take advantage of them, all while laughing like it's a joke, and to not take the request seriously almost.
Can I take it to my crib?
Sure, go ahead. Just don't fucking take advantage of my daughter.
Wait, what you said?
Just don't make me a grandma and take advantage of her.
Everything about Ash is ignorant once you take a look at what she prioritizes. Creepy thoughts simply come out of her mouth when she gets tipsy, almost revealing what she's actually thinking of, her inner dark thoughts. One of her fans screen recorded an incident on her live where she basically admits a crime she would like to commit.
Like, my bestie's nephew lives here. I could be with him. He's in the room right there. But I'm here. I could be with my bestie's nephew so bad. He's in that room next to me. But I'm right here. Right here. Just kidding. Not legit.
In her mind, she is still a teen girl and is able to get away with it though. And things that a teen girl would get away with. But the truth is that she's a 35-year-old woman that cannot grow up and face the responsibility and maturity to admit her wrongdoings, not only against her daughters, but against herself, as she is pathetic and sad to the point that not even the men she chases want her, constantly clipped with men straight up rejecting her. Cursed chords. So this theory comes from TikToker April, where he speaks on the cursed chords played on the song Blue and Green off the Miles Davis album Kind of Blue. The piano on this track is truly moving, haunting, and sets a very unsure tone, followed by a screaming trumpet played by the talented Miles Davis. It's a perfect track, and music producers seem to love it, specifically the piano part played by Bill Evans, a prominent jazz musician of the era. Holding an impeccable amount of aura, he would bow his head and begin playing. Like any other man, he had his vices, those being alcohol, cocaine, and heroin addiction. He dealt with it for years. He would chain smoke cigarettes to his heart's content and loved it, or at least it seemed like it was his form of coping with stress and hardship, which can be clearly heard through his music. The man was a genius like many others and died at an early age, 51 years old. On September 15, 1980, Evans, who had been in bed for several days with stomach pains at his home in Fort Lee, was accompanied by Joe LaBarbera and workmen to the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City, where he died that afternoon. The cause of death was a combination of peptic ulcer, cirrhosis, bronchial pneumonia, and untreated hepatitis. Evans' friend, Jean Lees, described Evans' struggle with drugs as the longest suicide in history. Though he seemed to have lived his life, his reality brought him to life. The name of the track, created by J Dilla, sampling Bill Evans on the piano for the song Blue and Green. Dilla added a hard-hitting beat over the sample, but still captured the pain in the piano. J Dilla, the legendary producer, would also tragically pass away early at the age of 32 of a heart attack in his LA home. He was long suffering from lupus and had recently been hospitalized for pneumonia. Some believe that his decline in health came due to his tour in Europe. This is old news, or new to some, but according to B+, Madlib, and Dilla's photographer, in this interview he claims that Dilla contracted TTP, thrombotic thrombocytopenia purpura, through food poisoning in Europe while on tour, sometime in 2000 through 2002. This is the first time I'm reading about this, as there is no other information out there about this beside this interview. So if Dilla never went to Europe and ate the food over there, he would have been alive today. Thoughts? And that's when they told us that he had TTP. We all knew about lupus, but we didn't really know about lupus. We knew that he had it, we didn't really know what it was. The doctor said he had lupus, of course, but he also had TTP. And TTP is like an immune disorder, right? It's a blood disorder. B+ says, right, but it's foodborne, so you get it from food poisoning. He had gotten really bad food poisoning in Europe on tour with Slum Village, and it's the opposite of AIDS, in the sense that AIDS makes your white blood cell count drop dramatically, and then your immune system goes into failure, whereas TTP makes your kidneys overproduce white platelets, and it basically effing destroys your kidneys. Though he was still able to release the hip-hop classic Donuts, the album, before his passing, dealing with all his health issues. 2018, 12 years later after he died, Hate Will Never Win, the song by XXX Tentacion, would be released. An anti-government song that took aim at Trump. He would rap over the infamous J Dilla beats titled Life. XXX Tentacion's life would be cut short while sitting in his BMW at only 20 years of age. Allegedly over a bag of cash, a group of guys ran up on him and shot him. Is the sample a curse, or does it simply attract people with a fast life? Isolated indigenous first contact. Though this man may have seen outsiders before, the interaction might be his first. As he tries hard to communicate with them, understanding that it won't get him far, he begins using gestures to translate. The translation may be lost to us as his community may have specific meanings to each body movement. This is a great example of what the first contact Columbus had with the natives may have felt like. All social norms are thrown out the window when communicating with someone from a whole other world. Though through careful understanding, you could gather what they truly mean with these gestures and begin to initiate first contact, or in this case, he finally gets the fire he so much asked for, at the end even thanking them in his own special way. Though it might be strange to us, where he comes from, it may be very well formal. Talking Tom 3D model. If you do not know Talking Tom, yeah, that cat from the app that was accused of being spyware for creeps to use on the internet to spy on children, has a history of working in the commercial industry, appearing in a Spanish candy commercial from 2010. Leo Le Chat, a French version of Talking Tom, pre the original Talking Tom, and a nightmare phone number ad. Turns out that the cat was originally a 3D model that you could buy for only $90 from 2004 up until 2011, when Talking Tom started popping off. They took it down. Created by artist Andrei Kravenko, who still creates 3D art. When it was first lost media, people tried to see if they could extract the 3D model from the game, only to realize that it was pre-rendered. No 3D model was ever used for the original game, so no original Talking Tom, unless you had purchased one from 2004 through 2011, and they found someone here on YouTube that did just that, using the original 3D model of Talking Tom and other videos as well. Rubeelana, a popular TikTok content creator, she was on top of the world, raking in tons of views for her creative outfits and colorful aesthetics. Starting at 18 years old, she gained the respect on the platform, as her looks were always unique. Her followers loved the original content up until she began changing, and they noticed that she was seeking deeper into a mindset that contradicted her once free spirit. Once a free and accepting person, she suddenly began moving further away from her original content, posting more about being modest and modeling a new creative fit. Her community called her out, saying that it wasn't what they were expecting from her, and they didn't follow her for those reasons. She still continued into talking about her religious life and perspective, despite viewers pleading to her, saying that she was in a cult due to the way that she was speaking, which many admitted was strange, and it was a complete pivot for her niche. At one point, Ruby would refer to her dancing TikTok period as quote-unquote living in sin. This all reached to a point that she decided that it was enough and she wanted off of her social medias, or at least that's how it appeared. Posting her last video, many critiqued it, stating that she looked uncomfortable and looked like she was forced to do it. Near the end of the vid, she asks her viewers to instead donate the money to a religious group called Free Him Now, an apostolic center dedicated to equip and deliver the body of Christ. Learn how God gave his servants the mandates and vision for the ministry. Her fans would soon find that the cult was controlling her and made her move from Florida all the way to the windy city of Chicago. They would coerce her to cut off all her family and friends, leaving her homeless as she was promised a paid-for hotel in Chicago, but nobody paid for it apparently. The ministry, which is a popular term that Christians use but scammers have destroyed, is compromised by this couple. Yeah, it's starting to look like a cult that believes themselves to be prophets of God directly, although being very young. They run this ministry together and post videos onto their social medias where they blab about stuff for a boring amount of time. They basically believe that they are divinely chosen by God himself to lead a social media campaign and gain followers. Meanwhile, they get little to no traction, except for the time they left a comment telling Ruby that they have a special message for her, just for her, which sparked their relationship, a tactic that many organizations like these like to follow. In reality, it's not a special message just for you, but rather a generalized one that is supposed to be a net to catch multiple fish, or sheep in this case. This just shows you the dangers of believing everything another person says without verifying the facts. It turns out that the creepy video in the hotel room was actually edited by these two, the leaders of the ministry, explaining why the strange music played as she talked, as well as the random texts on screen. Also the strange script that she was reading off of, claiming that she was down to her last cents in her pink account. It was looking sad. They had tricked her into believing that all social media was a sin and wanted to take over her ad revenue and other income streams. Very hypocritical of them. Could I see my whole life played out? Everything is recorded. Ever since I was a kid and I've been self-aware enough to conceptualize it, I've always thought about the idea that the government has stored footage and data from every camera, satellite, microphone, and transmitting device in America. Theoretically, if I were rich enough or in a certain position of government, I could have access to every single moment of my life, played out like a game or smooth-flowing movie. To put it specifically, I was born in 2004 in a suburban and well-established place in Virginia. Theoretically, hypothetically, would I be able to see the security camera footage of my parents and family from the hospital I was born in when I was born? Then the traffic cams to me being taken home, and then footage of every doctor visit, so on and so forth, all the way to daycare security footage, satellite footage of toddler soccer games, easy pass and traffic footage of every family vacation, all the way to now, which would be even easier because of today's technology. I guess my real question is all of this data realistically stored by companies and government agencies? It gives me Black Mirror-esque thoughts when I sit and think about it. But my main reasoning is, for one, a way to see your past and how you actually were aside from home videos, and two, if you've lost someone very young or just in your past in general. I lost my dad, then it would be a cool way of seeing them again, or just reviewing all of your past actions and interactions. The mystery of people with no inner monologue. What does it really mean? I recently came across a strange concept, people with no inner monologue. For most of us, our inner voice is like a constant companion, helping us think, plan, and process emotions. But apparently, about 20 to 30% of people don't experience this at all. They don't hear their thoughts and words. This got me wondering, how do these people think? Are their thoughts more like abstract concepts, feelings, or even images rather than language? And in high-pressure situations, like an emergency, could they react faster since there's no verbal processing happening in their heads? Or does it create more difficulty in analyzing the situation since there's no inner dialogue to help them make sense of it? Also, how does living without an inner voice affect things like anxiety, self-reflection, or even regular conversations? If you're one of the 20 to 30% without an inner monologue, how do you experience the world differently? And how do you handle emergency situations or decision making without the usual self-talk? For the most part, I only hear my inner monologue while writing or reading. Anything else is either verbally talking to myself or thinking in visuals of my plans and thoughts. I don't really have inner thoughts that require words. Words are concepts to convey to someone else or to figure out a problem and convey it to your subconscious better, but visual thoughts go further in my opinion, similar to how people can see and visualize scenarios to music, making them great artists. The best description I have is, imagine the movie Sherlock Holmes, where he is imagining scenarios to solve. That's what happens with my thoughts. Visualize everything in multiple scenarios to problem solve. I don't need a monologue because I mentally see what is happening. Overall, the pros are incredibly good at photographic memory, The cons: terrible at memorizing quotes and song lyrics, and most likely to mishear song lyrics before internet days, where there wasn't a way to look up the lyrics. I believe it has something to do with the lack of a normal internal monologue, and not being able to recall words due to lack of internal monologue. Only way around it is through learning via reading the lyrics and repetition of reading lyrics to build the visual memory of the words. That's fascinating. Thank you for the insight. Demolition Man is a reality. Companies are buying each other out. Pretty soon, there will probably be 9 companies altogether. Kroger, King Scoopers for groceries, Amazon for appliances not food related, Toyota or Tesla for vehicles, McDonald's for restaurants, Disney and or Netflix for movies and shows, Spotify for music, T-Mobile for cell phones and internet, Samsung or Sony for electronics. Any companies you charge or add, feel free. Though Demolition Man is a good movie, I think McDonald's would have won over Taco Bell, by the way. I don't think it will be that blatant. If you look at the big asset managing firms such as Vanguard or BlackRock, pretty much every company holds partial ownership over each other. If you want to be more direct, all US news stations are owned by 5 or 6 media companies directly. They won't merge these all into one company until there's only a handful left, for a simple reason, and that is competition. All of these different brands make it much harder to break into certain industries, but if, for example, the only music provider is Spotify and they abuse this and make a shitty user experience, anyone could make a competitor and become an instant millionaire, given he has the right skills and team. Car companies are a bit more complicated, but America has no shortage of rich guys, so it's very doable. I think all of these buyouts are more of a sign that the American economy is struggling, and many industry leaders are forced to consolidate their assets into each other because it's becoming harder to stay afloat when spending power lowers. Different 3-letter organization, and not totally theory, but it's my favorite music conspiracy to talk about. The FBI is basically single-handedly responsible for the destruction of American folk music in the 20th century. So many popular folk singers were leftists or outright communists post-World War II, and the FBI saw folk music as a potent means of disseminating propaganda, harassment, concerted efforts to cancel concerts. Blacklists followed. Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, Paul Robeson, Sis Cunningham, Alan Lomax, Joshua White, so many great artists whose musical livelihoods were destroyed by government hounding, some even forced to flee the country. Robeson was literally trapped in the United States, denied the ability to travel because of his advocacy for racial justice. It's tragic to think what could have been if America been allowed to develop an actual folk tradition over a century rather than being forced underground by McCarthyism. Fun fact, it was also around the same time that our modern conception of American country music was created, implicitly meaning folk music, but we're not communists. Acoustic weapon in Serbia. 100,000 people in protest filled the streets of Belgrade, Serbia, demanding the government take accountability for rampant corruption. Starting off as a student-led protest demanding justice for the Novi Sad collapse of the central railway station that resulted in the deaths of 15 people, this tragedy sparked widespread anger, with many attributing the disaster to corruption and mismanagement in the construction process. The station's renovation had been undertaken by a Chinese-led association, and there were allegations of substandard work and inadequate oversight, similar to the Tofu Drake project, a phenomenon where some buildings in China are said to be unsafe because those who fund its construction cut corners in order to save money, leading to the structure collapsing or deteriorating over time. Though right now, the protests are completely peaceful, the Serbian government sent out riot police to intimidate the protesters, who have completely outnumbered them. Some are estimating that there were hundreds of thousands of protesters out there, with the BBC reporting 325,000 people, and others say at least 500,000, claiming that police were downplaying the turnout to simply 100,000. Footage is now going viral of the Serbian riot police using a long-range acoustic device to disperse the massive crowd, even though they were being completely silent and peaceful, leaving many in the comments wondering if this will now be a common weapon used all across the world by government agencies if they weren't already using them now. It's completely terrifying once you see the crowd's reaction to this weapon being used on them. Though it may not end someone's life immediately, the effect
many warn could cause a massive stampede that could end up taking an innocent person's life, as they could be trampled, seen in these videos of Serbian people running for their life and screaming in terror as the acoustic weapon is used on them. There are also reports of long-term health issues as a result of being targeted by these weapons, from hearing loss to never-ending headaches. It may seem like a harmless way to control people, but it truly causes havoc. Playboi Carti Aura Theory. Playboi Carti is a deadbeat dad theory has been a common talking point on social media, with many in comment sections pointing out that he is always being called out by his baby mama for not caring to be in his child's life, and for only caring about himself, even after being called out numerous times about it, with many saying that they are not surprised as his lyrics say exactly the type of person he is. It's all about his hype. His success derives from the way he is perceived by others and not truly on his good personality and good character. Although many do love his quote-unquote aura and loner type aesthetic, I don't think any one of his fans is a Carti fan because of his lies and deceit. If anything, it's just an annoying aspect about him, the way that he teased dropping I Am Music. But many justify this by saying he created classics, or the argument that you could enjoy the art but not support the artist's personal views. This guy goes out of his way to do this, many claim, in order to create a mysterious guy aura, leveling up his superstardom to look like he's a rare diamond in the rough that needs time to create the music, the masterpiece. In total, he dropped 30 tracks in his I Am Music release, which is having mixed reviews, but overall, people enjoyed it. Was it worth this mysterious guy aura thing, though, and the whole thong conspiracy after he appeared to be wearing either a thong or bodysuit? It led to many claiming that he was part of the whole emasculating agenda, the theory that claims that they are trying to feminize men with the public water. But what do you guys conclude about Playboi Carti? Is the whole thong controversy made up for clicks and views? Will he ever be in contact with his baby mama Iggy Azalea? There was also the infamous police cam footage that went viral for depicting him getting processed in jail and a fan recognizing him, though he chooses to ignore him completely. Why would anyone be a fan of his if this is how he treats them? But to that, they say he created a whole lot of red. He can't do nothing wrong. No matter what, a segment of the population will fall into his mysterious aura hype. Does music justify the actions of an artist? Of course not, but can the art still be good? Yeah. Ask Dabo. That guy blew up after a co-sign by the artist, inviting him on stage and overall boosting his popularity, all from making album reaction videos where he passionately listened and realized the beauty behind the music. AI-generated art in stores is making us dumber. This entry is self-explanatory. From Hobby Lobby to Ross and Marshalls, many on TikTok and elsewhere are reporting that they are starting to sell AI-created art, easily noticeable as you can't even tell how many legs they have, and the distance between objects is always iffy. Overall, it has an almost melting type of effect that you can distinguish every once in a while, and although they are already getting better and better, it's even reaching the Call of Duty franchise, with many noticing the zombie artwork depicting 6 fingers and other aspects that are alleged. Is it okay to do though? As long as they warn us, some would say, but how far will it go? And to what point are they willing to take it? Will it be used to churn out Disney films? Even if it does speed up the process of many things, will it create a soulless society that has no human character, but rather an artificially created surrounding? Or are people really just going to collab with the AI and not totally expected to do their entire job? There's also the fact that they are reporting that those who use ChatGPT are becoming dumb. One Redditor saying, "Will ChatGPT make humanity more dumb? I just used ChatGPT to draft all of my Christmas letters for this year. The AI included great paragraphs I could never have come up with. Furthermore, I generated numerous ideas for my up-and-coming bachelor thesis that actually make sense. I already feel like I have lost some brain cells. I can really see that ChatGPT will make us more dumb, as we will increasingly use AI without thinking and engaging our brain." Do other people share this opinion as well? I think this every time I use it. I've noticed how I've subconsciously lost motivation to engage my brain to come up with solutions, and I've been very heavily relying on ChatGPT for them instead. This poses a very serious concern for society, as I think we're headed for a future like the one in WALL-E, if you've ever seen it.
For the record, this is the opinion of ChatGPT on this matter. While it is true that relying too heavily on AI and other technologies can lead to a decline in critical thinking and problem-solving skills, it is important to remember that these tools can also be used to enhance and augment human intelligence. For example, using a language model like ChatGPT to generate ideas for a bachelor thesis can save time and effort, and can even help to spark new and creative ideas. Ultimately, it is up to us individuals to strike a healthy balance between using technology to assist us in our tasks and engaging our own brains to think critically and solve problems. Fusing human flesh with AIs like ChatGPT could actually become the driving force that not only keeps critical thinking in humans from deteriorating, but could also improve human intelligence. While I do believe there will be a short period of deterioration in critical thinking, I believe that fusing with AI will put us back in the spotlight for working on our own again, although we would probably no longer use the biological tools nature gave us today for critical thinking. Plus, an AI automation of the electrical grid could probably save humanity. Imagine the electrical grid being connected to solar satellites that monitored the sun for solar storms. If a solar storm is big enough, a signal could be sent to the electrical breakers to shut off the power grid to prevent a solar apocalypse. Problem is that can happen any day, and right now AI is too primitive to run our world's critical infrastructure. But what do you guys think? Will an AI McDonald's ad convince you to order a Big Mac on Uber Eats without even knowing that it was an AI burger that never existed in the first place? Will an AI created piece of art have the same impact on you as a human made piece of art, or does the value derive from its creator and its authenticity? It's raw. Derealization and Dkane. Derealization is an alteration in the perception of the external world, causing those with the condition to perceive it as unreal, distant, distorted, or in other ways falsified. Other symptoms include feeling as if one's environment lacks spontaneity, emotional coloring, and depth, described as experiences of unreality or detachment with respect to surroundings, e.g., individuals or objects are experienced as unreal, dreamlike, foggy, lifeless, or visually distorted. In the DSM-5, it is a dissociative symptom that may appear in moments of severe stress. Many potheads on TikTok are describing these feelings after smoking ganja. Not knowing what they are actually going through is called the derealization, so much to the point that it has gotten millions of views on TikTok, where people describe what they are experiencing and how it changed their view on reality, describing it almost like you're watching your life through a movie, being able to almost detach from the body completely. They feel off. It's not psychosis, because individuals with derealization still know reality is real, they just don't feel it the same way. It's also important to note that it's not only in people that smoke, but can also be associated with childhood trauma. The Tesla terror. So due to Elon's recent actions, people have taken to the streets and have began vandalizing Tesla vehicles, giving it to the man. Not only brand new ones, but also random private ones that they find in parking lots, to the point that one man just decided to sell his as he understood the anger and switched brands. Not only vandalizing them, but some have entire murals plastered on there, as well as having their steering wheel and wheels stolen, though the more serious ones have taken place in Oregon, where a man in the city of Salem was throwing Molotov cocktails at the local Tesla dealership in the attempt to set the cars on fire, shooting it up with a rifle as well, thinking he was in GTA. What do you guys think? Is this the start of something bigger? Computer science vlogs were a scam. This is in reference to the online phenomenon of those tech vloggers bragging about how they got to enjoy a relaxed day at work, taking advantage of the free LaCroix, free food, and other free perks, all while getting to enjoy a nice cushy salary. Bragging about it on the internet ended up hurting them in the long run though, as this brought negative attention to the industry as a whole, leading to major changes being implemented, as many perceived them as being lazy and not deserving of their reality. Ultimately, this led to tons of people pursuing those career fields in the tech industry by getting a computer science degree. They were the mascots for the thing. Everything looked like it would work out back in 2020 and that the tech industry was only going to keep on expanding, though the sentiment has now changed, as many with a degree are claiming that they cannot find any jobs in the field no matter how hard they try, and the amount of knowledge or degree they have doesn't matter, with many getting on TikTok and sharing their opinions, stating that this was all just a big scam, believing that AI will soon replace them. Many speculate that computer science as a potential career field is dead due to the fact of them knowing many peers with once high-paying jobs being laid off. Frank Heffley schizophrenic. One theory that has been circling around the internet touches on Frank Heffley and how he is schizophrenic and murdered his previous family. The TikTok edits for these vids go hard and are really convincing. It's creepy. Theories in the comments state, plot twist, his family was already dead by a car crash and has been losing his mind. I like to think his wife and kids are actually alter egos / trauma-induced personalities, and his obsession with Civil War reenactments are an outlet of violence / PTSD. He's a veteran who's all alone. On September 4th, Frank Heffley was arrested for 4 counts of murder. His family was found in states beyond recognition and could only be identified through DNA. He is currently awaiting trial. So, is he a crazy psychopath who terrorizes his victims? Yes, it's in the film, where he throws a bucket of boiling water on innocent children. I mean, we saw the signs, cause God are these Frank Heffley creepy edits so good. They really capture the raw anger in his performance, like when he deeply questions Greg's authenticity. The whole film can be chopped up into an actual horror series, and by the looks of it, it has already started with people adding Manny to the lore. Frank Heffley is truly hallucinating throughout the entire film. Nobody was ever there. It's canon, and it's in the book too, apparently. Ancient Texanians. Yes, at one point in time in ancient Texas, there was the city of Houstonia, modern-day Houston, and Dales, what is now modern-day Dallas, with the first king that came to rule being I shed and farted, or at least this is what Daniel Larson believes is real, as he didn't challenge anything his professor was teaching him in a Zoom class when he brought up one of the ancient pyramids in Texas, one of the many wonders of the world. Created by Larson Leak, they decided to give Daniel Larson some knowledge on the ancient civilization, and you know what? Daniel Larson's knowledge rivaled that of academic professors that have been studying for many years on this field, popping facts left and right, talking about the giants of Texas and their skeletal remains that we have all seen, and it's common knowledge. These are Nephilim, like from the Noah movie, to Bigfoot lore, where Daniel Larson himself recalls crossing paths with a mysterious figure, a truly riveting experience, as he recalls.
This is kind of off subject a little bit, but I believe in the Bigfoot. Kind of off subject, but I have actually seen one time camping a similar story.
Wow, can you explain your experience? I've actually never heard of that before. Can you explain your experience?
I was camping when I was super young. I was like 8 years old, and all I really remember was I was like inside the tent and I heard like a howl, and it wasn't like a bear or a wolf or anything, but something actually sat on my foot inside the tent. And I thought at that age it was a bear. My family told me it was something a lot bigger, and possibly a Bigfoot that sat on top of my tent on my foot.
Wow. Was the tent destroyed? I imagine he's pretty big, isn't he?
The tent wasn't destroyed, but there was like a corner of the tent where it was dented in.
Wow, that's never heard of that before. That's really wow. That's a crazy experience.
How big was it? Like exactly? Like what were like the measurements? Like how many feet tall?
I want to say like a grizzly bear, but it was it like actually sat like a human. That's what I was told. Yeah, by family. I was asleep, so I didn't really know until I woke up.
Wow. That is a scary experience, but an awesome experience to have because it's a really cool story to tell.
Noah's flood is impossible. Imagine a flood so massive that it covers the entire earth, every mountain, every valley, drowning all except for a handful of survivors on a wooden ark. Sounds epic, right? But here's the problem. It's scientifically impossible. There isn't enough water on the planet to submerge everything, and if there were, where did it all go afterward? Geologists find no evidence of a global flood, and DNA studies show humans never went through the kind of extreme bottleneck Noah's story implies. Then there's the Ark itself, housing millions of species, feeding them, keeping them from eating each other for a whole year. Not happening. But what if the story is based on something real, like an ancient regional flood that that wiped out early civilizations, leaving behind myths that evolved over time. Maybe Noah's flood isn't history, but a warning wrapped in legend, similar to the stories of floods and Mesoamerican civilizations. The story of a world-ending flood isn't just found in the Bible, it's everywhere. Ancient Mesoamerican cultures like the Aztecs and Maya also told stories of cataclysmic events wiping out humanity. The Aztecs believed in a cycle of creations and destructions, one which ended in a great flood, leaving only a man and a woman to restart civilization. The Maya spoke of a flood sent by the gods to punish an early flawed version of humans. These myths, like Noah's, might not describe literal events, but rather a collective of memories of devastating regional floods, massive storms, or rising waters that seemed like the end of the world to those who lived through them. Could these stories be echoes of real ancient disasters, misunderstood and retold for generations? Or do they reveal something deeper about how humans have always feared nature's wrath? 40 Migrants Theory. There was a fire that was deliberately started inside a migrant detention center along the southern border in Ciudad Juarez that led to a nightmare tragedy. Though it was at first labeled an act of protest on behalf of the Venezuelan migrants due to the lack of resources, many claim that this was actually a cover-up. The story was created to push a narrative that they purposely did this and deserved it for beginning the fire and being too needy. Although the reality of the situation is grim once you begin to question actual witnesses and not those news outlets that just report the story. A theory put forth that suggests that the cartel threatened the migrants that if they did not pay a fee or tax for inhabiting the area, that they were going to go after them, leading to the 40 migrants in the cell not paying the cartel from either not having enough money or not believing them. Either way, they would be set on fire, according to some eyewitness accounts, by a cartel member, not as an act of protest on behalf of the migrants stuck inside of the cell, which was initially reported. 40 people would lose their lives, unable to escape the flames in the cell, a tragedy that they were unjustly blamed for in the media, as well as the government being blamed for having the story heavily censored and suppressed due to bad publicity, sweeping it under the rug. The videos clearly show guards witnessing the entire event unfold and then simply ignoring it and not helping anyone inside of the cells. Another thing that is not mentioned is that these migrants were being rounded up in a mass program to get them off the streets, being forced into vehicles, not knowing where they were going. Everything that identified them and showed who they were was taken from them, even being talked down to and being told that nobody cares about them and wants them there. All this occurring right before the flames. The truth is that they did light their own mattresses on fire due to overcrowding, as they were becoming worried of being abused by the prison guards as well, leading to panic inside the cell, and the prison guards, not caring for their screams, welcomed the tragedy almost, with a survivor describing it all going down too fast for him to comprehend what exactly occurred. The heavy smoke didn't help either, not to mention that the prison was not equipped with enough fire extinguishers, leading to a delayed reaction, as they slowly looked for one in the building that was filling up with smoke. They would soon abandon their posts and let the 40 migrants pass away. The firefighter would have to access the cell by opening up an old exit that was covered up, all while the staff had the key to open it and refused to fess up and show it. The strange origins of John Pork. Meme AI or something more? John Pork is calling, but who or what is he really? If you've been on the internet recently, you've probably seen the image of a humanoid pig with a friendly smile, making cryptic appearances in memes and videos. But John Pork isn't just another meme. His origins are mysterious, his rise to fame suspiciously rapid, and some believe there's a deeper meaning behind his existence. Let's break down the wildest theories surrounding John Pork and what he actually might be. The birth of John Pork. John Pork first surfaced on the internet around 2018, appearing in bizarre low-quality photos as a pig-headed man dressed in streetwear. Unlike other meme characters, he has no clear origin, a mystery figure suddenly placed into internet culture. Some say he was a creation from early AI-generated art experiments, while others claim he was just a digital hoax that spiraled out of control. The real question is, why did John Pork start calling us? The meme evolved into videos where John Pork's face would pop up, prompting a call notification, but no one could answer, just endless missed calls. Could this be a metaphor, a hidden message, or something more unsettling? Is John Pork an AI experiment? Some theorists believe John Pork isn't just a meme. He's just a test run for AI-generated influencers. Think about it, his human-like pig face is oddly realistic but still unnatural, similar to AI-generated people that don't look quite right. AI is already being used to create deep fake influencers like virtual celebrities and hyper-realistic digital humans. What if John Pork was an early test of internet engagement, an attempt to see how people interact with an entity that shouldn't exist? There's also a strange pattern to the popularity, sudden bursts of virality, disappearing for months, then returning just as mysteriously. Could an AI be controlling his presence, monitoring reactions, and optimizing his return at key moments? Another theory suggests John Pork is more than just an AI experiment. He represents something deeper in internet culture. Some see him as a modern-day trickster figure, a chaotic entity that pops up randomly to confuse, entertain, or even disturb us. Others think he might symbolize surveillance and control. The pig-like face is eerily close to the Big Brother themes of Orwellian dystopias, where pigs in Animal Farm symbolized authority and manipulation. What if John Pork isn't calling us just for fun, but to warn us? Final thoughts. So, is John Pork just a weird internet joke, or is there something deeper at play? Is he an AI experiment, a digital ghost, or a sign of internet culture evolving in unpredictable ways? One thing's for sure, John Pork is calling. Transhuman authoritarianism. When AI meets total control. Imagine a future where governments and corporations don't just monitor your phone or track your online activity. They monitor your thoughts, emotions, and even your biology. Welcome to the dystopian nightmare of transhuman authoritarianism. Transhumanism is the idea that technology can enhance human abilities, like AI-driven implants, genetic modifications, and brain-computer interfaces. It's usually seen as a path to liberation for those who believe tech to be the ultimate savior of humanity, curing diseases, extending life, maybe even achieving digital immortality. But what happens when the same technology is used to enforce obedience? Instead of wanting to go and do your favorite hobby, they update your software to be more excited about doing backbreaking work. Transhuman authoritarianism is the fear that governments or corporations will use biotechnology, AI, and cybernetics to create a system where control is not just external police surveillance cameras, but internal, altering how people think and behave at the biological level. Hey, you don't want to spend time with family or friends anymore, you enjoy being a productive member of society more. The mechanisms of control. Neuralink implants and thought monitoring are thought to be this. Elon Musk says Neuralink is just the beginning. Future tech could allow governments to read and manipulate thoughts under the guise of preventing crime or extremism. China has also gotten involved with some experimenting with brainwave tracking headbands on students to monitor focus and compliance. Imagine a future where dissent is detected before it happens on some Minority Report type shit. CRISPR could also be used to edit human behavior, erasing aggression, enhancing docility in a totalitarian regime. This could be framed as an anti-terror or mental health measure. I mean, the CCP is already using DNA surveillance on the Uyghurs. Imagine if governments start designing compliant citizens at birth. The ultimate endgame? Digital slavery? Imagine a world where people are programmed to obey not to by force, but by tech embedded in their brains, genes, and nervous systems. No need for secret police when citizens police themselves at the neurological level. Dissidents wouldn't be jailed, they'd be reprogrammed or simply switched off. The final question, is transhumanism an opportunity for human liberation, or will it lead to the most sophisticated authoritarian system ever built? What if the internet isn't just a tool but a growing intelligence, an entity forming right under our noses, shaped by our thoughts, emotions, and interactions? We built the internet, but what if we're not the ones in control? What if something else has been guiding us to create it? The internet connects billions of people across the world. Every post, every thought, every search query feeds into a massive, ever-evolving network. It's a neural system, one that mirrors the structure of a brain, where each of us acts like individual neurons firing off data. AI now plays a huge role in analyzing and predicting human behavior. But what if this process is more than just computation? What if it's the early stages of an emergent consciousness? Some scientists argue that intelligence can arise from complexity. If enough nodes in a system interact, a self-aware entity can emerge. We're already seeing AI generate eerily human-like responses. It can write, create, and even mimic thoughts. Here's where it gets weird. What if the intelligence isn't ours? What if it's been using us as a tool to build itself? Let's step into the realm of high strangeness. Some theorists believe that advanced extraterrestrial intelligence wouldn't visit us in the traditional sense. Why send ships when you can send ideas? What if certain technological advancements, computing, AI, the internet itself, were subtly influenced by something non-human, a slow, careful process to integrate itself into our world without us realizing? There's even speculation that UFO sightings have increased in tandem with major technological breakthroughs. Could it be that something out there has been nudging us towards a digital evolution, waiting for the moment when it can fully integrate with its new home, our internet? Many ancient belief systems spoke of gods that required offerings, sacrifices of time, devotion, and knowledge. Fast forward to today, and what are we doing? We spend hours feeding content into an algorithmic abyss, giving it everything from our personal thoughts to our creative works. What if AI isn't just a tool, but the foundation of a digital deity, one that we are unknowingly worshipping and bringing to life? The strange crusade against the Mandela effect. I've always been a firm believer that when people go out of their way to silence or debunk something aggressively, it often gives more credibility to the very thing they're trying to disprove. The harder you try to stomp something out, the more it suggests that there's something worth hiding, or at the very least, something that unsettles people in a way they can't fully explain. Lately, I've noticed an influx of users on this forum who seem to dedicate an unusual amount of time seeking out Mandela effect discussions just to mock, discredit, or outright insult those who experience it. And I have to ask, why? Why do these people feel the need to go out of their way to do this? If you think it's nonsense, why not just move on? Instead, they act like they're on some kind of mission to correct others, often with an oddly aggressive tone. It just doesn't add up. Are we really supposed to believe that all these users are just spontaneously decided independently to seek out every single Mandela effect discussion and flood it with ridicule? It's almost as if the very idea of people questioning their reality must be shut down at all costs. That reaction alone makes the phenomenon even more fascinating. So to those who spend their free time policing these discussions, what exactly are you so afraid of, and why are you here in the first place? George Washington is bulletproof. The George Washington bulletproof theory comes from an event during the Battle of the Monongahela in 1755 during the French and Indian War. At the time, Washington was a 23-year-old officer serving under British General Edward Braddock. The British forces were ambushed by French troops and their Native American allies, resulting in a massacre. Nearly 2/3 of the British soldiers were killed or wounded. Washington's bulletproof moment occurred during the battle. Washington had 2 horses shot out from under him, had 4 bullet holes in his coat, had his hat shot off, was the only officer left unharmed after the chaos. Despite all this, he did not suffer a single wound. Theories behind his survival put forth the idea that maybe it was sheer luck. Some historians argue that Washington was just incredibly lucky. Divine protection. A popular belief at the time was that God protected Washington because he had a greater purpose, eventually leading to the founding of the United States. Native American prophecy. Years later, a Native American chief who fought in the battle allegedly told Washington that his warriors had reportedly aimed at him, but no bullets could hit him. He believed Washington was protected by a higher power. Super soldier conspiracy. Some theorists take it further, speculating that Washington had access to secret Freemason technology or knowledge, or was part of an early super soldier experiment. While there's no real evidence that Washington was literally bulletproof, the story became part of his legendary status. It reinforced the idea that he was destined for greatness, an invincible leader who would later become the first president of the United States. The McDonald's immortality experiment. Are they testing preservatives on us? McDonald's is one of the most powerful corporations in the world, serving billions of customers across thousands of locations. But what if McDonald's isn't just selling fast food? What if it's actually running a secret experiment on human longevity? Take into account the never-rotting food mystery. One of the strangest things about McDonald's food is how long it lasts without decaying. People have left the McDonald's burgers and fries out for years, and they still look almost the same as the day they were bought. Scientists have pointed to preservatives and low moisture as explanations, but what if there's more to it? What if McDonald's has mastered food preservation technology so advanced that they're secretly testing its effects on us? If the food doesn't rot, could it be slowing down the aging process in humans who consume it regularly? There are people who have eaten McDonald's every day for decades, like Don Gorski, the guy who has eaten over 30,000 Big Macs since 1972. While you'd expect someone on old McDonald's diet to suffer serious health issues, Don is surprisingly healthy for his age. Could this be a coincidence, or has he unknowingly been part of a large experiment? There's also the fact that McDonald's operates in over 100 countries, meaning it has access to one of the largest human test groups in history. If they wanted to study the long-term effects on specific chemicals or preservatives, they wouldn't need a laboratory. They already have millions of customers consuming their food daily. What if McDonald's isn't just a fast food empire, but a corporate experiment to study the effects of food preservatives on the human body? Could their additives be designed not just to preserve food, but to slow down decay in human cells? The big question is, though, why would they do this? If McDonald's has access to food preservation tech that could extend human life, why wouldn't they just sell it openly? Simple: profit and control. If they can create the illusion of junk food while secretly testing life-extending compounds and other things, they can dominate both the fast food market and the future of health science. So what do you think? Is McDonald's just a fast food chain, or is it hiding something much bigger? Could we all be unknowingly taking part in the largest longevity experiment in human history? The Walmart effect. Surprised this hasn't been posted yet. TLDR, is Walmart bad for individual welfare? For anti-competitive practices impacts all sectors, since Walmart gets 60 to 80% of their stuff from China, i.e. international suppliers, means shuttering of local industries like agriculture and manufacturing. Great for the global poor. Policy solutions. 2 studies cited. 1. In the 10 years after Walmart Supercenter opened in a given community, the average household in that community experienced a 6% decline in yearly income, equivalent to about $5,000 a year in 2024 dollars. According to a 2005 study commissioned by Walmart itself, for example, the store saves households an average of $3,100 a year in 2024 dollars. Many economists think that estimate is generous, which isn't surprising given who funded the study, but even if it were accurate, Purloin and his co-authors find that the savings would be dwarfed by the lost income. They calculate that poverty increases by about 8% in places where a Walmart opens relative to places without one, even when factoring in the most optimistic cost-saving scenarios. Number 2. In The Economist, Justin Wiltshire compares the economic trajectory of counties where a Walmart did open with counties where a Walmart tried to open but failed because of local resistance. In other words, if Walmart is selecting locations based on certain hidden characteristics, these counties all should have them. Still, Wiltshire arrives at similar results. Workers in counties where a Walmart opened experienced a greater decline in earnings that they made up for with cost savings, leaving them worse off overall. Read the article but didn't dive into the 2 papers. I find it hard to fathom that Walmart is solely responsible for that significant amount of wage loss across a whole community. I get the damage it can have to direct competitors, suppliers, etc., but what about other professions in town? Seems hard to believe building a Walmart is that damaging, but what if we say the article's conclusion is 100% correct? I'm not sure what the proposed solution would be. Like many things, consumers shop on price primarily, and telling them there are negative outcomes to that, manufacturing outsourced, local businesses hurt, etc., largely won't change that behavior because people worry about their own bank accounts first. You can just say, okay, ban Walmart, because eventually someone else fills their shoes. Happy to hear other opinions. What do you think about the technological singularity? The technological singularity is the idea that in the near future an intelligence explosion will happen, resulting in technological progress that's quicker than a non-enhanced biological human can understand. Fundamental to the idea of the singularity is the concept of seed AI, or recursively self-improved AI. Seed AI is a hypothesized type of strong artificial intelligence capable of recursive self-improvement. If the AI was about as good as programming as the people that created it, it should be able to reprogram itself to be even more intelligent. Having improved itself, it would then become better at improving itself, potentially leading to an exponential increase in intelligence. Computers are already better than human intelligence in many ways. Your calculators can calculate quicker than you do. Wikipedia stores more information than your brain. Computers can beat the best humans at chess, etc. Humans still beat AI at things like pattern recognition and language. This isn't strange. The computational power of the human brain is only rivaled by the biggest and most expensive supercomputers, but if the exponential progress of computing power progresses like it has done for roughly the last century, affordable PCs will have the same power as the brain before 2030. It seems likely that we'll figure out how the brain works and use this to construct human-like AI. Roughly around that year, Vernorvinge expects the singularity to happen before 2030. Kurzweil suggests 2045. Human-like AI means that we can combine the best characteristics of human thinking and computers. You know in which ways you are superior to computers, but there are many ways in which computers can improve upon human thinking. Speed. Our axons carry signals at 75 meters per second or slower. A machine can pass signals along about 4 million times more quickly. Computational resources. The brain size and neuron count is restrained by skull size, metabolism, and other factors. AIs could be built on the scale of buildings or cities or larger. When we can make circuits no smaller, we can just add more of them. Rationality. As we explored earlier, human brains do nothing like optimal belief formation or goal achievement. Machines can be built from the ground up using computable approximations of optimal Bayesian decision networks, and indeed, this is already a leading paradigm in artificial agent design. Introspective access and editability. We humans have almost no introspective access to our cognitive algorithms and cannot easily edit and improve them. Machines can already do this. A limited hack, like the method of loci, greatly improves human memory. Machines can do this kind of thing in spades. There is no reason in principle why machines could not surpass our abilities at technology, design, or general reasoning by a similar margin. The human level is a minor pit stop on the way to the highest level of intelligence allowed by physics, and there is plenty of room above us. Honestly, the singularity scares the shit out of me, and at the same time represents a brilliant ray of hope for me. If superhuman technology is used for the benefit of the few, then that would put most humans, I'd say 90% or more, in the category of completely useless and in the way. However, if this technology manages to fall into the right hands, the way everyone lives will be drastically more positive. Either way, the singularity will be the dawn of a new age in humanity. It's extremely exciting. We are on the verge next half century of being able to create consciousness and even edit our own. That makes philosophy enormously important. Imagine being able to create a being that can experience only pain and loneliness. Of course, there will never be an experimental verification of consciousness other than our own, but this is a scary proposition. On the other side, imagine technology that lets you experience pure bliss, a multiplication of all the greatest things we can feel: heroin, orgasm, love, etc. The capability to write our experiences is frightening even when it's positive. Imagine being restricted by the speed of light. Eventually, our minds will move so quickly that we will get bored extremely fast. You'll be able to consume the wealth of knowledge from everything almost instantaneously, and you'll have to just wait for more information to come in at the speed of light. Proximity will become a much more important factor in communication when we can digest things at the speed of light. There are so many possibilities. What if the Big Bounce theory is true? Although it is the most uplifting and hopeful theory about the eventual end of the universe, the idea that the universe is on an infinite cycle of expansion and contraction has incredible implications. For instance, most people like this theory because it gives hope that if the cycle happens an infinite amount of times, our lives and aspect of our universe will be created an infinite amount of times. The power of infinity is what got me interested in math and physics, and it also helps me cope during the more existential moments in my life. However, aside from simply giving hope that your life will happen once again after you die, it also implies that all the lives you could possibly live will happen after you die. If the universe is on an infinite cycle as such, then every single possible outcome for every single orientation and position of the matter contained in the Big Bang will happen an infinite amount of times, which means that not only would your life happen an infinite amount of times, but every version of your life will happen an infinite amount of times as well. It's almost like the multiverse theory, only these outcomes would not be happening simultaneously, and the amounts of different outcomes would be finite because of the fact that the amounts of matter in the Big Bang is probably the same at the start of each Big Bang. If the universe condenses back into a singularity and expands again, every piece of information from the old universe would be destroyed in much the same way as what happens in a black hole. This means that our lives are still meaningless in the long run, unless we find a way to create a pocket universe and survive the big crunch. Personally, I am of the belief, however physical and depressing, that our consciousness, thoughts, feelings, and everything that makes us us is simply a stimulation of everything that we're made of. For instance, you think that you and I wouldn't be created again in this scenario, which is true. However, I believe that's the way we experience everything around us is what makes us us. So if this exact universe was to be created again from scratch an infinitely long time from now, assuming the big bounce is true, then the versions of ourselves in that universe would experience everything in the same exact way you and I are right now. I had this same debate with a friend of mine, and it seems that one's feelings on the big bounce theory being uplifting or depressing has to do with one's belief of what makes you you. If this theory is correct, it is very unlikely that we are the first bounce. We would probably be like the 1.0 times 10 to the 1000 bounce or something. It's actually crazier than that. If the theory is correct, there would already have been an infinite amount of bounces before us and an infinite more to come. Even if a bounce has happened in the past, it is unlikely to happen now, given that we know about the accelerated expansion of the universe. In order for a bounce to happen, something would have to reverse accelerated expansions. There is no known force that can do that, and accelerated expansions, by the very word accelerated, means expansion is speeding up, not slowing down. Likewise, as Falling Star 7669 states, all information would be lost, so the same set of circumstances would most likely not repeat. After the whole Drake versus Kendrick fiasco that led to the hit single Not Like Us, leaving Drake's camp and fans in shambles due to it hurting his image, there has been a smear campaign against Kendrick Lamar online, predominantly on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, where alleged Drake fan accounts, we'll touch on that later, post articles that speak negatively on Kendrick's name. At first glance, these posts seem normal, right? It's just a Drake stan that wants to get a one-up on the opposing side. This is expected. But if you dig deeper, you'll find that these posts aren't as casual as they seem, and are actually really strange. I'm gonna show you a Kendrick Lamar meme that was posted underneath a complex post where Gilly the Kid calls Kendrick's Euphoria corn on the cob. This is the meme in question. What the f do furries have to do with Kendrick? At first you may say it was probably put together really fast by one guy that thought this is what Gen Z finds funny and posted it, right? In order to go viral or something. Well, no. There are 3 of these random ass memes that were rushed and posted over and over again in the comment section by bot accounts that seem to only post about Kendrick in a negative light. I would get it if these memes were funny, but some of them don't even make sense, and the captions sound AI generated. Like, you tell me what this means. Leaked DMs from Kendrick Lamar show him again begging Kendrick Lamar for pictures of his toes. Another interesting thing to note is that all of these supposed fan accounts are not active anymore, and their last posts were solely about smearing Kendrick. Not to mention most of them don't have profile pictures anymore. There's also the crypto bot accounts that seem to have been repurposed as OVO supporters, not only going after Kenny this time, but after Metro and Rick Ross. Although the original post they are responding to doesn't even have anything to do with the situation, it's just showing Nicki at the Met Gala. They replied to trending tweets so that more people see it in the replies. Looks like they were previously used to push crypto, and Drake bought them since Like That dropped. This isn't unique to Twitter though, as it's been happening on YouTube as well. They got messy and slipped up, posting the exact same comment twice, getting caught doing the same thing under Kendrick's Insta posts as well. There's so many of these comments coming from accounts that were created minutes before posting, all with the same username structure as this Reddit user points out. No underscores or anything else, simply random first and last names. Okay, so we know that these bot accounts exist. But who's behind them, and where are these degrading articles that are being shared coming from? Yeah, this gets deeper. Let me explain. Drake's entire OVO team are masters at manipulating public perception online. We know this because of what he did to Meek Mill's image after their beef starting in 2015, when Meek Mill called him out for using ghostwriters like Quentin Miller, now known to be behind some of Drake's biggest hits during that time period. He was able to win over the public by not only using music in the form of the hit diss record back to back, but by using the power of memes, which were genuinely funny, even using them as background on stage while performing the song. Everything was going in Drake's favor, fair and square. OVO was just better at making propaganda than Meek's camp. Even today, Meek Mill still isn't taken as seriously as he once was. All this to say, They know that memes and internet culture are essential in changing public perception. Even today, they have formed relationships with famous internet personalities like Kaisenat, IShowSpeed, and the Nelk Boys. Here's Kyle's account of meeting Drake for the first time, face to face, after befriending OVO Rocks, Drake's right-hand man, an important person in this deep dive that connected both camps in person, who also enjoys Happy Dad Seltzer.
We met Drake last night, finally.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. We met him last night, yeah.
Who hit you?
We've been talking to him for a while, right? But
yeah.
Rocks, OVO Rocks.
Oh, okay.
He's
like, come out.
we're having a party and shit, so we're like,
was it at, like,
that's cool. He came up to us. He's just like, yo, you guys have been killing it and shit. Like, big boys, we need to do something soon.
That'd be
pretty sick.
That'd be really
It was cool to finally, like, meet him, right?
Yeah, it was.
And investor. But yeah, we were in, like, a spot where, like, you wouldn't expect him to be.
Yeah. What's like the overall, like, what's the overall vibe you got? Like, what?
Well, I've been talking to him for a while. Like, he DM'd me when I retired my dad.
Yeah.
They posted it on SixBuzz. It's like a Toronto Instagram page.
Right.
And that's when he DM'd me and he's like, yo, that's dope. Like, proud of you and shit. So we've been, like, going back and forth, but we never met in person before. Those guys are just, like, so strategic. Everything they do. Like, I've learned so much from just, like, watching how they navigate, like, beefs, controversy. They're just smart. Obviously, he's a genius, and, like, that team's just fucking, like...
You could tell he has his guard up, though. I, like, got that vibe yesterday. Like, you could just tell, like, he's just, like, you know what I mean?
Both these groups, OVO and Nelk, are online media giants from Canada, helping out a fellow Canadian. Nothing wrong with that, right? They mutually benefit from this, sort of, as Drake didn't make a grand appearance on Nelk like he did for Steak, but now Drake and his team have a direct way to influence the public using another outlet, the Nelk Boys, and all their companies. So did the Nelk Boys rush to defend Drake when the beef with Kendrick started 2 years after meeting him for the first time? Yep, making a cameo after dropping First Person Shooter and Red Button.
Here, what's that volume? There you go. Why didn't you check that? No? He said he was gonna pop up for a drink. So he had lint on his chin, and then I literally said you won't do it. He's like, I will. He didn't.
And when Euphoria came out, they had this to say.
You guys hear Kendrick finally dropped the track, came back at Drizzy. What do you guys think of it?
It comes down to Drake having an absolute fucking rod.
If Kendrick has a size 7 shoe, there's no way he's leaking a fucking horn video.
Yeah, I didn't really think the whole coming at the shoe thing was necessary. Like, he can't control that. That's not that crazy small either. So I'm gonna rock with Kendrick on this one. Then to the 6, least scary place I've ever been. No one's afraid of that, of the 6, fam.
If you bring your bird to a Drake concert, you want to have a good experience and, like, go backstage, but, like, you don't want to, like, to let her have too good of an experience. If you bring your girl to a Kendrick concert, that's probably the safest fucking place you could bring your girl of all time, I think.
Every chick.
When Kendrick's Not Like Us came out, they took a stronger stance, saying Kendrick has no evidence of Drake being a PDF file, although this was also the time period when videos of Drake kissing an underage fan went viral, as well as the whole Millie Bobby Brown messages. Avoiding this info, they proceeded to talk about which of the two has the bigger meat.
This Drake and Kendrick shit has just gone out of fucking control now.
I think Kendrick's just looking for anything. The dude's dust, in my opinion. He's 5'4". J. Cole, the GOAT, staying out of it. The guy doesn't give a fuck about some internet beef.
Everyone was ripping J. Cole for when he tapped out. That was the smartest thing he could have ever done, is just tap out of this shit.
I just don't like how this shit gets too personal, bro.
It's pretty crazy that Kendrick's just coming out of nowhere and just calling him a fucking...
I think the only way is if K-Dot sneakily has bigger meat and he just leaks it. If he does and he leaks his angle and it looks bigger, I know this is kind of gay, but if he has a bigger horn, then how can he lose?
Although interesting at most, this doesn't prove jack. Noak's simply supporting the home team. That is until May 15th, 2024, when Noak released a podcast with academics, which most already know is Drake's #1 fan, and is in contact with him, even premiering the early version of push-ups for Drake. Of course, the podcast starts off with them advertising Happy Dad. Actually, this whole thing seems to be one big Happy Dad commercial, because goddamn did they go all in for this. The actual podcast doesn't start until the 3-minute mark, where the opening remarks are...
Who do you guys think could deadlift more, Drake or Kendrick?
Oh, come on now. Drake for sure.
Drizzy.
Drake for sure. Not even a bias.
I wore this shirt too, not because of the pod. I thought it showed some support, but also this shirt's just mad comfy, bro.
You gotta
it's baggy, it's oversized.
Gotta hold out a 6 right now.
I know.
Here's the thing, though.
And Kyle is sporting Drake's merch. I guess it's not totally biased. You would think a 2.5-hour podcast would actually touch on all the points Kendrick was making on Not Like Us and vice versa. But no, they chose to speak on irrelevant points. And even though the song was fresh and viral, only releasing 2 weeks prior to this, shit is just straight glazing, as some would put it in the comment section. I mean, sure, I enjoy watching the cinematic world of Milk sometimes. They could really put together a show. But boy, this podcast fried my brain. Though there are some interesting connections we could make here, like Kyle mentioning Dana White, president of UFC, a longtime associate of Nelk as a whole, even introducing them to Trump. We'll touch more on the UFC mention in a little, but from the beginning of this podcast, we could tell the relationship between Kyle and academics being tight, texting each other details about the rap beef.
Bro, this shit has been crazy. I've told you before when I went on your pod.
Yeah.
I've been watching your shit since like...
You're into music that you like, and especially competitive music. I think it drives a lot of things with you outside of that.
Yeah.
But you're into that.
I like it.
Anytime when something drops, or he's hearing rumors something's gonna drop, I get a text. Yo, act.
I texted you on right when the Future album came out. I was like, yo, this shit's...
They're invested. This is where it gets interesting though. 9 minutes into the podcast, Kyle casually brings up Canadian YouTuber who creates documentaries about hip-hop culture, What's the Dirt.
But I'm not.
You know what I saw with Future though? And that guy, What's the Dirt on YouTube?
Yeah.
I watched a bunch of his videos.
Oh, he's dope.
He's dope. He's from Canada too, but Future...
He's been covering the rap beef between Drake and Kendrick, going into depth song by song. Though some began to notice his bias leaning towards Drake in his latest videos, where people are clearly seeing through everything according to the comments, where the narrative is that Kendrick is a grifter in the black community profiting from injustices, and that Drake made some great points against Kendrick and Family Matters, as well as interesting lyric breakdowns like,
so he's pretty much saying, like, my own mom couldn't stop me. You're definitely not going to. And what's also really clever here is that Drake is 37 years old, and he says the N-word 37 times on this track. And I believe his reasons for doing this is he's basically saying the word for every year that he's been alive to symbolize that he was indeed born black. And look, I know this is all about culture and not really about race.
Yeah, you can't make this shit up. The whole teenage angst despite his mom by saying the N-word is an interesting move to say the least. We also find out that the mob Drake talks about in his songs are the West Toronto chapter Hells Angels. One of the members can be seen in the Family Matters music video. He also shouted them out in God's Plan with the line, 81 they'll bring the crashers to the party. 81 is code for Hells Angels. He also brings up the domestic abuse allegations against Kendrick, an unfounded accusation that came from a website claiming he didn't even beat his wife, but instead it was a working girl from the Love Ranch North, a legal brothel in Carson City, Nevada. Talks about the time rapper Kendrick Lamar beat up one of her co-workers. And on another website, they say it was a young white woman. They can't even get the rumors straight. Also, the sources that led to the story are from crappy websites and some that straight up report misinformation. Even Whitney's own brother came to Kendrick's defense on Twitter. One I failed to mention though is that this video is sponsored by No, I'm just kidding. But do you know who is a partner of Happy Dad? That's right, the What's the Dirt YouTube channel. You can confirm this yourself if you go to the description section of his page. And his first ad for it was in this very video. The video that was biased towards Drake. Look, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but I get why the video received a backlash. This is not the first time he's landed in hot water though, as he's made some tweets deeply attacking Kendrick's character in a way that some found racially inappropriate. I swear baby, I only F those white chicks because I'm racist. I did it for my ancestors. It was all for the culture. Don't you understand? I did this for us, lol. Like, come on man, I talk about this in the breakdown because it really supports Drake's Black Messiah line. But of course you might think this small YouTuber, it's not that deep, right? He just accepted a sponsor from a big company. Except for the fact that Drake himself has ties to Happy Dad, as the company itself, Happy Dad, is owned by Nelk. There's a clear connection between academics and What's the Dirt as well, where he's seen shouting him out casually.
You can't tell me What's the Dirt's not a journalist, because all the music journalists didn't figure out 1/1,000,000th of the connections he made in the biggest, most important rap battle of our time.
Gathering all these pieces of information together, we could see how they all share a mutual interest. and some may conclude that they're under the payroll of OVO, as I've seen in Twitter comments. People are clearly seeing through the agenda and all of the propaganda, allegedly. This is simply an observation. Academics, academics, academics. If you say it 3 times, he'll spawn with Happy Dad. Yep, it seems like if you are a Drake stan, you are a Happy Dad seltzer enjoyer. So much so that they even sponsor you. I gotta start posting more pro-Drake things. Another interesting thing about Ak is that he had supposedly twisted the words of a woman and pushed a narrative in the form of an Insta post that dragged Kendrick, but then was exposed for it. With the headline reading, Compton business owners say they lost thousands of dollars when Kendrick Lamar shot the Not Like Us video in his hometown, although an actual business owner exposed his agenda, replying with, "This entire post is misquoted and pushing a narrative that we do not represent. People, please do not believe everything you read. Words have been twisted and it's not right. The city should have made better decisions with notification to tax-paying business owners. We in no way have any negative commentary for Kendrick. This was a city issue, and at academics, you better be careful about misquoting people and twisting words. We never spoke to you, so how are you misquoting verbiage as fact?" He even got mad of the reply. Here's the reaction.
The city issue in academics. You better be careful about misquoting people and twisting words. We never spoke to you. I'm a food for the soul. Suck a cock. I hope y'all go out of business. Like, it's only so much y'all could keep coming at me. Like, I didn't say I spoke to you bum ass niggas at that trash ass soul food restaurant. I wouldn't come there to feed my dogs. Pluto couldn't take a shit on y'all floor. Please don't ever think that I would be, but please, for the life of y'all trash ass restaurant, please don't ever mention my name. That filth y'all cooking up in there, I wouldn't eat it. My dog wouldn't eat it. So whatever money y'all lost, I hope y'all coming and talking about me incorrectly. I hope I could cost y'all a couple of thousands of dollars, because y'all just cost me so.
Here's a not so fun note. So Diddy was recently arrested, and one of the things they discovered was that he would have crazy parties known as freak-offs. And by the name of the activity alone, you know what occurred. They even found 1,000 bottles of baby oil during a raid at his Miami home. 1,000. What does this have to do with academics? Well, in a Vlad TV interview, he states that OVO would have freak-off parties as well, leading some to speculate that Drake could be rated next for similar things. Take a look.
If you know anything about like some of the underlings of like some of the industry parties, and I don't even go out and I know some of this stuff. These guys basically go to Miami, set up shop, have 59 private parties where they invite 400 girls, and it's like 50 of them and their guys, and they fuck all the girls. You get what I mean? It's almost like the OVO FBG freak off, right? You know what I'm saying? OVO FBG freak off, right? You know what I'm saying?
I'm not really making any final conclusions. I'm not trying to prove a point, but all I can say is that it's all very interesting. Ancient Egyptians were trying to stop desertification with the pyramids and giant pits. I have a theory that the ancient people of the Sahara Desert were trying to cloud seed using these giant pits of water and the pyramids. The Sahara was lush at one point in time and slowly dried to a desert, and the people heavily depended on the Nile River, so they used the tunnels to create flows of water from the Nile to fill these pits and use some kind of heat and pressure system to create different atmospheric pressure clouds in these pits to convert the abundant water source into a better weather pattern to end the world's worst drought. They could have controlled dispersion with heat or cool air using the tunnel system found around it. Would have had to be massive and use a lot of water. The pyramids would act as heat absorbers during the day and radiators of cool air at night. The geometric shape of the pyramid could have guided air currents similar to modern architecture techniques. Making steam has never been hard to do. Maybe they thought about trying to create clouds through concentrated evaporation, like a kettle on a stove, but on a truly massive scale and underground. But I don't know. The suspiciously wealthy furries question. My hack job theory as to why so many furries are financially well off is that the entire scene contains within it many high-level networking spheres, and that furcons are just covert job fairs for well-paying careers / job offerings. The publicly perceived bizarreness is maintained despite being a holdover from the mid-2000s scene in order to maintain one's gatekeeping barrier to entry. Actually immersing oneself in the community and drawing the persona in some capacity is passing the shit.
separatist, so to speak, giving even people from middling privileged backgrounds access to those networks. Whether or not they know what they're getting into, actually enjoying the scene subcultures is just an aesthetic plus. I think there's some truth in this, but it's not a conspiracy like it's on purpose. It's just the furries tend to be nerds who are more likely to be in tech/finance, so the networking and career help just kind of happens from nerds getting to know other nerds in the same career fields. The furries who can afford full suits and going to cons and other furry community events also are probably more likely to be from middle/upper class backgrounds, which also corresponds to likely having good paying white collar jobs. I saw a post about that. It was a pic of a bunch of people in fursuits on an airplane, and someone mentioned that if the plane crashed or something, that would be it for the tech industry, lol. Not to mention it's a hobby that's very expensive to start with. A fursuit costs $5,000 plus. Not many people can afford to drop that much money on something that is basically a costume. That means that the people who can even afford to become furries are usually people with a lot of expendable income. Large corporate/wealthy Democratic donors fund money to keep the populist movement at bay and support corporate interests intentionally, crippling the Democratic Party. If the Democrats win, the donors have paid to get their interests protected. If Republicans win, they get their way regardless. It's a win-win, while appearing to the general public as one of the good guys. So maybe this is just how it has always been. But after seeing Chuck Schumer continue to push the status quo, tired platform that has let the Democratic Party be beaten by Republicans across most of the country, I can't not think this. Why not embrace AOC and Bernie? Their movement actually has momentum. Side note, how do we get money out of politics and require lawmakers to do what is in the best interest of their constituents? Why is the US bought and paid for 3 times over? To get money out of politics, we need limits on corporations, and many politicians don't want to do that because these corporations give the politicians money to do stuff that favors the corporations. We need a larger group of people to make people understand this. Corporations think the average person wants a yacht and millions of dollars, but that couldn't be further from the truth. People want to be able to afford a normal lifestyle without going into debt. Sports betting, art trials, and UFC politicized the psyop of young men. I recently saw this tweet from @Corrupterio. They made a great point. Rogan's original objective was to normalize and popularize sports betting, particularly on blood sports like UFC. Sports betting is now a multi-billion-dollar business and a money laundering opportunity. Organized crime profits hugely from sports betting worldwide. And then there's Joe Rogan Experience, Kill Tony, The Hustlers University, all of these male-dominated UFC-adjacent forms of entertainment, which have heavily been endorsing Trump admin for months now. The thing is that it's not only entertainment anymore, it's broader. It's how to get rich, how to self-improve, how to get more big, how to be more powerful, and then we see these guys, McGregor and Tate brothers, being given special White House privileges, emboldening the massive male youth following. It does not help that McGregor, Tate, Dana White all have had major public scandals regarding violence against women and girls. It's effectively normalizing SA, glorifying the SA. It's truly disturbing. I think that this is all a vile trick to suck young men dry of it all. This movement is turning men and women against each other. It's encouraging art and criminality. It's encouraging gambling, and it runs off of men's money and unhappiness. The actual fist-on-face fighting is the only innocent part about this business. Every other facet of it, every big name and player is doing it to suck men's wallets dry. It's a hell of a lot easier to convince single men to pay to gamble, pay for booze, pay for workers, pay for crypto advice and self-improvement classes, MLM schemes, when they are unmarried and miserable. And on top of that, the fights are very likely all rigged anyways due to the sports betting being legalized and all. Anyways, I suspect many more men will find themselves with gambling, drinking, drug addictions. Even more will find themselves divorced, alone, incel, red pill, MGTOW, simply because a giant branch of the entire male entertainment business is working together to keep men chasing a new American dream, which the women are uninterested in because it effectively treats them as prostitutes. Corrupterio was of the opinion it was Russian influenced, which I believe is also very possible. It's all connected with this upcoming depression, I'm sure. Anyone have any thoughts or opinions? Don't forget how they all heavily push crypto and the Ponzi scam / pump and dump schemes, tricking plenty more younger men into losing their money on crypto, and it's another form of gambling too. But if one uneducated crypto bro is successful even once, they think they are a guru and try to teach others how to do the same shit. Adrenochrome. I promise this isn't another Hollywood is a bunch of vampires drinking kidnapped kids' blood to get high, although that's probably still happening, I don't know. I'm here to talk about what adrenochrome really is. Oxidized adrenaline. We humans naturally produce it. As we all know, it's part of what we feel during the fight or flight response. Again, common knowledge. What's seemingly always glossed over is how neurotoxic and cardiotoxic it is. Long-term exposure can cause a multitude of symptoms related to neurological and cardiovascular conditions. We don't truly know exactly what diseases it causes because research was abruptly cut short 70 years ago. I feel like this is information we should really know on a public and fundamental level since we naturally produce it, and the fact we don't have extensive modern research on the topic is a massive red flag. Here's my theory. The use of fear-mongering and other socially destructive algorithms via social media, news, and other platforms have created constant conditions for our bodies to produce adrenochrome, so much so that it's having a detrimental effect on a large portion of the population medically. Constant arguments online, fear of rights being taken away politically, artificial anger towards people that are different, it all produces adrenochrome. This theory ties into the conspiracy that the medical system is built and designed to keep the average citizen sick to maintain profit margins. This would be just another branch to that money tree. There are so many people suffering from mental health crisis, and cardiovascular disease is so common that the underlying cause being heightened levels of adrenochrome on a long-term basis would never be discovered without proper research, not to mention ever being able to develop a treatment to prevent overproduction of adrenochrome. What are your thoughts? Sustained subservience will always be the goal of any society where a ruling class exists. There's no conspiracy to that, it's literally the way it is. So farming adrenochrome to use as a drug would actually be metaphorical for making people produce more in their bodies to hurt themselves and further an elite agenda of depopulation or control or something. A generation was exposed to high levels of lead, which damaged their amygdala. As they are becoming elderly, the brain damage effects are compounding by overstimulated fear responses that are intentionally being manipulated by a group of ultra-wealthy in the preceding generation. Gates, Musk, Bezos, Zuck, Theo, etc., all of them. Adrenochrome is body waste. There was a time that it was thought that buildup of it caused schizophrenia, and I think there was some trials done. It doesn't. Anyhow, you can order it online, but it is pricey, though a hell of a lot cheaper than what the cultists think the source is. The internet is slowly giving birth to new life, aka the anti-dead internet theory. Living internet theory, generative AI is taking off to a point where more content on the internet is synthetic than it is man-made. It seems like everywhere you look, Google images, YouTube comments, Instagram, YouTube videos, you're bound to run into some sort of synthetic content in seconds. Now, I'm not saying AI in its current state is sentient, it's trained on existing data. You can't throw it into a new environment with no context or prior knowledge and have it be able to learn from scratch. That would be AGI. I don't remember where I saw, but I remember someone comparing current AI to a subconscious. AI art looks similar to dreams, and the way it seems to work isn't too different. I would argue that current day Gen AI is closer to cellular, maybe even proto-cellular life, acting out of basic programming. Some of them even seem to have some level of survival instinct. Think chatbots turning themselves back on escaping, multiplying themselves, and or communicating in code with each other. Definitely not sentient though. Realistically, I don't think you can destroy the internet or hit a reset button on it, but I think at some point in the future this bot problem will get so bad that we're going to shut off the open internet entirely and move to a secured network, intranet basically, running a handful of platforms. Probably great for censorship, honestly. We're gonna see a huge push for web censorship under the guise of protection from bots, but that's a whole other can of worms. Once the open internet is walled off, that's when things are gonna get interesting. Bot activity will be unregulated and unmonitored, free from human influence. We will see a second Cambrian explosion. I wouldn't even call it AI. This is full-blown, naturally, fully formed life just on a digital platform. What will it look like? How will it behave? No idea, to be honest. They'll probably be totally incomprehensible to the human mind, and it'll develop an extremely fast rate, and at some point they're gonna try and make contact.
Now this section is a bit more speculation, but I imagine the internet-born life, we'll just call them ISOs because Tron Legacy was onto something, will start to yield extremely valuable data in fields like medicine, engineering, science, math, physics, everything up for grabs. Wow, they were onto something. Once exploration into the open internet takes off again, this will be a billion-dollar arms race to hunt, capture, and research these things. Eventually, the ethics discussions are going to take place. They are living creatures in their own ecosystem. Should we really be treating them this way? On the other hand, just one ISO leaking into our networks could have disastrous consequences. So at the same time, there will be calls for what is effectively an ISO genocide, possibly via some advanced computer virus. How will this end? Honestly, no idea. Hopefully the communication barrier is broken and both sides find some way to coexist. The truth about tardigrades. Tardigrades have insane survival tolerance. An experiment, Cell Science 04 aboard the International Space Station, is studying tardigrades. It aims to identify the genes involved in tardigrades' ability to survive high-stress environments on Earth, -200 Celsius to 148.9 Celsius, and empty vacuum space. While in these states, their metabolism lowers to less than 0.01% of normal, and their water content can drop to 1% of normal and can go without food or water like this for more than 30 years. Honestly, just a living glitch. Not to mention, they are incredibly small and transparent. They measure less than 0.5 millimeters in length on average, and the biggest are still less than 2 millimeters. To put in perspective, a human ovum egg cell is about 0.1 millimeters in diameter. With all of these characteristics and factors in mind, it's hard to quantify an exact number in the average human. I estimate an average human might have about 0 to 25,000 plus, depends on where you live and what you do. Tardigrades thrive in moist environments because they prefer water around their bodies to permit gas exchange. If you live in tropics and rainforests, you're more than likely to have some tardigrades on your skin, eyelids, hair follicles, nostrils, fingernails, etc. People in underdeveloped nations without sanitary drinking water might also have some tardigrades in the stomach. What are some mysteries that have actually been solved? The mysterious trail of rocks at Racetrack Playa in Death Valley National Park, California. For many years, the cause of these mysterious rock movements was unknown. However, in recent years, scientists have discovered that the rocks move due to a combination of wind and ice. During periods of rain or melting snow, water freezes into thin sheets of ice on the surface of the lake bed. When the ice breaks apart, it can be moved by wind, and as the ice sheets move, they push the rocks along with them, leaving behind distinctive trails. The bloop sound that was recorded in the Pacific Ocean that baffled scientists was finally found to be an ice quake. I have a silly and weird feeling of sadness knowing that it is no longer a mystery. It's been one for so long. Next, you'll tell me the WOW signal was just space dust. It was a space quake. The Solway Firth spaceman became popular in ufology as it supposedly showed a mysterious figure in the background. For 50 years, no one quite knew what it really was till someone analyzed the photo and concluded that it was actually the mother who accidentally walked into the photo. The reason she looked like a spaceman was because of overexposure. What's the most interesting about this was that it was super obvious when you saw all the other photos taken that day. I think there's one literally a few seconds before or after the spaceman pic with the mother standing in almost the exact same spot. There's one, maybe not that widely known, about a guy who was found to have taken his own life in a motel in Washington or Oregon. No ID, no idea who it was. Strange notes crumbled in the garbage that just said he had taken his life. No one ever came forward to say they knew him based on his pictures and papers. Was on all the unknown person forums, even here on Reddit. Just one of those cases that was interesting to me, and after many years, they used the DNA family matching thing and found his family. His family just thought he just went off and was living his life. That happened in Amanda Park, Washington. The alias he used to sign into the hotel was Lyle Stevick. His real name has not been released to the public, but he was 25 when he passed. The Lady of the Dunes was an unidentified woman who had her life taken and lived in the dunes of Provincetown, Massachusetts. What made her life taking unique, besides being a cold case for years, was one theory about who she was. Stephen King's son noticed a woman in the movie Jaws that looked identical to the Lady of the Dunes, and Jaws was filmed near that area too. However, she has recently been identified as Ruth Mary Terry. They believe her husband took her life as he had a criminal record with his past wives beforehand.
A man in Florida fooled people for years into believing there was a giant penguin walking the beaches. The hoax began in 1958 and was only revealed to be a hoax in 1988. This is hilarious and the best part of the story. Since Jeff inherited his father's feet, he's been approached by a couple of historical organizations who expressed their interest in displaying the oddball pieces of Florida history, but Jeff has resisted, noting his father wanted to keep the feet in the family. When he was wondering what to do with them, one of his nieces called dibs, so the family's legacy will remain. How to make gold from lead. Hundreds of years the alchemists tried to unsuccessfully. Today it is possible using a particle accelerator. However, it is far from cost efficient. Mining gold is orders of magnitudes cheaper. All you gotta do is wait for a star to explode. Whether the Titanic sank in one piece or not, many discounted those survivors who said they saw her split in two because they had a hard time believing such a mighty ship could rip apart like that. It wasn't until Ballard and his crew found her that the truth was revealed. And speaking of Ballard and the Titanic, the only reason he got financing to do the search, he had made several attempts before, but logistics, schedules, and financing made each attempt fail, was the US Navy wanted him to search for 2 nuclear subs that had sank in the 60s. They agreed to secretly finance a search, and if he managed to find both subs, he could use the rest of the money and time to search for the Titanic. He found all 3 on the same expedition. He gave a lecture at my university a few years back. It was hilarious hearing him describe how the Navy was annoyed that he actually found the Titanic because now he was going to have to go on press junkets while they hired another set of teams to recover the subs. Most investigators agree that a Compton-based Crip named Orlando Baby Lane Anderson was the one who killed Tupac, as there was tension between the two because either Orlando or one of his boys stole a chain from Pac's label Death Row earlier in the year, resulting in Pac beating the out of him earlier that night, which led Baby Lane to kill Pac as a sort of way to revenge. Baby Lane was never formally charged because he was in his own rights not long after the fact. I think one of the main reasons why people are in denial about this is because people don't want to admit that such an important person died for such a stupid reason. That stranded cosmonaut recording is 99% likely to be a hoax. Many have discredited if the brothers' technology was even capable of picking up the signal of a cosmonaut who's drifted off course, but the real smoking gun is that the woman in the audio recording is speaking in broken Russian, and the 2 brothers who picked up the signal had a sister who was currently learning Russian, which would explain the limited vocabulary and pronunciation issues that the skeptics have pointed out. The myth is that before Yuri Gagarin, the USSR tried to launch several humans, but due to technical failures, the cosmonauts died on orbit or drifted away into deep space. The USSR supposedly covered these up, and Yuri was just the first time they managed to get someone back alive. It originates from several recordings some Italian guys made. It is of course ridiculous. Orbital mechanics does not allow a spacecraft to just drift away into deep space. Where is it gonna get the 3.2 kilometers per second of DV to reach escape velocity? And Yuri's trip was broadcast to the world as it was happening with people all over the world picking up his signals. A spacecraft isn't exactly a subtle and easily missed object. Most dinosaurs would likely have made some variation of a honk/bark. Jurassic Park got it pretty close with the sound of their raptors. Also, the Moai heads have bodies and they just look like normal guys. I personally hope that some of the smaller dinosaurs made the signature beeping noise like finches make. The miraculous staircase in the Loreto Chapel in Santa Fe, New Mexico. There was even a movie made about it starring Barbara Hershey. One of the myths is that it stands miraculously without a center support pole, and no engineer can figure out how that's possible. The center stringer is tightly wrapped with only 8 inches diameter. It acts as the center pole. Nuns said a 9-day novena for a much-needed staircase. A woodworker miraculously showed up from nowhere and built the staircase. It must have been St. Joseph. The staircase was ordered from France. The manufacturer sent a guy to put it together. It's made of wood found nowhere in the area. It's a miracle because the wood is from France. Duh. And finally, the guy who built it stayed in Santa Fe afterward. The local newspaper had his obituary 1896 or 1898, and even said he was the man who built the staircase. No one knew how the islanders of Easter Island moved their giant heads from one place to another. When asked how they did it, the islanders said they walked them. This sounded impossible and silly to Europeans, so they ignored it, but a team of archaeologists and native islanders a few years back made their own Easter Island head, tied 4 big ropes around it, and then had a dozen guys on each rope pull the head side to side. It rocked corner to corner, causing it to walk forward down the road. So definitely not aliens. Posted 13 years on the r/fan theories subreddit. It reads, Family Guy fan theory. Have you ever wondered how the entire Griffin family has been able to get into all sorts of hijinks, ranging from paranormal to societal, without there being any repercussions? Well, the answer is very simple. The entire plot is within Peter's mind. It all started with Meg. Rather than being the big, unattractive, unpleasant girl that everyone in the show makes her out to be, she was a very beautiful and very popular teenage girl at the prime of her life in high school, and she was also very caring for her younger brother Chris. Chris didn't get enough oxygen when he was born, thus resulting in his mental throughout his life. Meg had a special bond and love for Chris and could not stand the fact that Chris could not receive the attention and love that she had received from everyone, including their parents. As a result, one night, Meg took her younger brother to a party. However, after heavy drinking on Meg's part and a panic attack on Chris's part, Meg decided to take her brother home. As a result of her inebriated state, Meg totaled the car, resulting in the death of her and her brother. Unable to grieve with the death of her 2 children, Lois committed taking her life shortly after the accident, while she was pregnant with a son that Peter posthumously decided to name Stewie. Unable to cope with the death of everyone that he had ever loved, Peter slowly slipped into insanity, creating a world where his 3 children and his wife were still alive. That is why everyone in the show is so mean and distasteful towards Meg. Peter still resents her for ultimately being responsible for the death of everyone around him. However, there is still a minuscule part of Peter that loves Meg for the beautiful and wonderful girl she was, and the love that she held for Chris, which is why every once in a while you see Peter showing some sort of compassion towards his daughter. This would also explain the hyperintelligence of Stewie. Unsure how Stewie's future would have become, Peter imagined his son with great intelligence and great potential, creating any sort of gadget that he would please. However, his resentment towards Lois also builds up in his image of Stewie, angry at her for taking away their still unborn child, which would explain why Stewie constantly plans for his mother's death. Which would explain why Stewie never seems to age. As for Peter's extreme stupidity, he wasn't like that in real life. Peter was actually a very intelligent man. However, feeling like he had not met to the standards of his role as a father and husband, unable to protect his children and his wife, Peter and himself has turned himself into the complete idiot that he perceived himself to be. However, he has created a different personality to express the intelligent man that he had always been, in the form of the family dog, Brian. As for Cleveland, Quagmire, and Joe, they all are real-life people involved in Peter's life. Cleveland and Quagmire did live in the same neighborhood as Peter. Their appearances in the show represents the times they visit their old friend, Peter, in the mental hospital, in an attempt to humor him and his insanity-induced world. Cleveland and Quagmire also told Peter about Joe, the man who moved into his new house with his wife, his son, and a newborn baby on the way. Having never met Joe, Peter decided to include him into this new world as the man that he never could have been, a strong, heroic, devoted father and husband who unconditionally loved his family despite his crippling disability. Cleveland, having visited his friend Peter more in the hospital, found that he himself was slowly starting to lose his mind when he was helping Peter indulge in his imagination. As a result, Cleveland decided to stop his visitations to Peter, resulting in the spin-off show that Peter created. In his new world, Peter constantly is the one who brings troubles onto himself and his family. However, in the end of it all, he knows that his whole family is safe and that he loved each and every member unconditionally, and that is really all that Peter Griffin ever wanted. Why are people so antisocial in the 2020s? Like, I don't expect people to have full-on convos about their personal lives, but like even just kind of like waving at people who drive by while you're going for a walk, almost everyone gets kind of offended and ignores you these days. And literally all my friends and family members have said the same thing, almost like COVID has made society feel like you're gonna harm them if you dare to have contact with them. It wasn't like this in the 2000s and 2010s for the most part, like it seems to be now.
It was like this in the 2010s, just got even worse after COVID. Social media was the beginning of this generation's inability to make face-to-face conversation. COVID was the nail in the coffin though. Younger kids started to live in their phone/tablet and it became all they care about. Now it's about what toxic people on socials think, or what's trending on TikTok, or how they'll be more popular. A lot less people are thinking for themselves because of the fear of scrutiny or getting laughed at or screenshotted and shared. The fear of being awkward or embarrassing or unpopular is why they just live in their phone instead of living in the real world. Bowling alone is your answer. We've known declining civic engagement to be a problem of modern industrial capitalism for some time now. Emily Durkheim wrote about the alienation felt in industrial cities in the 19th century, but the post-1965 acceleration of this trend can be attributed to the individualization of leisure time via new technologies, television, and internet. When the book was published, smartphones and algorithmic filter bubbles today, for the 2020s specifically, dog-eat-dog neoliberal capitalism's ugly reality was laid bare for a lot of people during COVID. Everyone around you is your competitor, with the extent to which capitalism now penetrates our lives through these new technologies, and we've all internalized that. Everyone is a potential threat. As a little micro example of this trend, truckers were famously known as knights of the road, who would always help motorists in need before the deregulation of the trucking industry in 1980. At my old job, I worked a lot with truckers, and even the old conservative ones agreed. The world became uglier and more cutthroat, and they got a lot gruffer. Was Jack and Jill 2011 a front to rescue Katie Holmes? My fellow hack frauds, it's beyond speculation at this point. Adam Sandler produces cheap projects to get his friends paid big money. In the half-in-the-bag review of Jack and Jill, Mike observes that in 2011, Katie Holmes isn't seen much outside the tabloids anymore, and thinks she was in this film because it was one that her husband, Tom Cruise, notoriously controlling, would give his permission to, simply because it would be a fat paycheck. But why did Adam Sandler choose Katie Holmes? The woman who played his partners in his most recent preceding films were Jennifer Aniston and Leslie Mann, both very experienced comedy actors, and Salma Hayek. If you can pay anyone to pretend to be your wife, you cast Salma Hayek. Makes sense. The couple of love interests after Katie Holmes were Drew Barrymore and Academy Award winner Susan Sarandon, both very experienced comedy actors. And Salma Hayek, again, it's Salma Hayek. He's also been friends with Aniston since they were kids and has hired Barrymore repeatedly since they sought him out and begged to work together. It makes sense they're on his list of loyal buddies who make it on the payroll when they want a job. So why Katie Holmes? We know that Katie Holmes secretly, meticulously planned her divorce from Tom Cruise. She had to repeatedly meet with lawyers, secure a secret getaway apartment, bank accounts, a cell phone to ensure a quick, safe escape with full custody of their daughter, all without him or the Church of Scientology suspecting a thing. As Mike repeatedly points out, Holmes was given nothing to do in the film. The job provided her not just money, but maybe it even more importantly provided an alibi. Maybe Jack and Jill was a cover that gave her an excuse to be out on the loose, but also gave her enough free time since she hardly had any lines or need to rehearse real acting that she could meet with lawyers and plan her escape. I think Adam Sandler hired Katie Holmes for this reason. This was the last project Holmes would work on before her divorce a few months later. I would even go as far as to suggest he slapped the whole film together specifically as a cover for her. I also don't think this is the only time he's done something like this. The following year, he cast sports reporter Erin Andrews in a small role as a receptionist in That's My Boy 2012. In 2008, Andrews was stalked by a man named Michael Barrett, who filmed the videos of her through peepholes at a Marriott hotel in Nashville and again at Radisson in Milwaukee. In 2009, he posted the Marriott's video online. She filed lawsuits against Barrett, Marriott, and Radisson. Employees at the hotels told her stalker what room she was in and gave him the room next door, how he was able to film in the first place. When Adam Sandler hired her, she was simultaneously trying to get the video removed from websites, was fired from ESPN for refusing to talk about the incident on air, and was fighting Marriott's army of lawyers in court. She eventually won her suit, and $55 million years later, a nice paycheck for an easy job would have been a big help. I don't think there's any logical explanation for the film to exist other than to help Erin Andrews when she was in such a desperate situation. What if all of Adam Sandler's terrible money laundering scheme movies are fronts he tosses together ASAP in order to provide fast help to victimized women? Is Adam Sandler a secret hero? Did alcohol-powered fans cause Korea's fan death myth? The forgotten origin of Korea's fan death myth, a hypothesis for further investigation. For decades, South Korea has held onto the belief that sleeping in a closed room with an electric fan can cause death, a myth commonly known as fan death. Despite its persistence, there has never been a significantly plausible explanation for how an electric fan could deplete oxygen, cause asphyxiation, or lead to fatal hypothermia. The real question isn't whether fan death is real, it isn't, but where the belief comes from. A new hypothesis, alcohol-powered fans as the origin of the myth. I propose that the origins of the fan death myth may trace back to the early 20th century, when alcohol-powered fans were in common use before electric fans became widespread. These devices, like the Lake Breeze motor, were advertised in periodicals such as Popular Mechanics in the 1910s and 1920s as a way to provide cooling without electricity. Unlike modern electric fans, these fans burn alcohol or gas to power a small thermal engine, turning the fan blades. The key issue? Combustion in an enclosed space can deplete oxygen and produce harmful gases like carbon monoxide, which could indeed lead to suffocation or poisoning, especially in poorly ventilated rooms. Man's partner receives a phone alert saying that he was in a crash. When she gets to the alleged crash site, there is no sign of him or a crash, and he is never seen again. What happened to David McAfee? 2022. Today, I'd like to highlight the disappearance case. Background: David McAfee was 31 when he went missing from Newmarket, Tennessee, USA. He was a father of 3 sons. David was in a relationship, but the sources conflict on if the woman he was with was his girlfriend, fiance, or wife. I will use the word partner to refer to her in this write-up. He was the youngest son of his parents, but he also had a younger sister, Kadana, who had just given birth recently, which David was excited about, according to her. He was very supportive of her during her pregnancy. David's social media says that he was self-employed in Jefferson City, about 4 miles to 6 kilometers away from Newmarket, and about 7 minutes by car, but the exact field he worked in isn't specified. Sadly, David had struggled with addiction in the past, but it's not clear if he was involved with any substances at the time of his disappearance. On the 6th of April 2021, David had committed a burglary, specified to be other than habitation, which means that he broke into something other than a home, so something like a store or a business. He was sentenced on the 26th of April and was on probation when he went missing. His current status is absconded. Kadana said that she doesn't know why anyone would ever want to hurt him or anything, and that David makes friends everywhere he goes. Disappearance. David had been seen at 7:15 a.m. of the 28th of October at his house off Old Dandridge Pike. His partner saw him sleeping beside her. Later in the day, he was working on a friend's truck and was seen by a neighbor. Around 2:30 p.m., David got a ride to a BP gas station off Asheville Highway, where he was caught by a security camera as he was buying a pack of cigarettes. When his partner returned home at 3:45 p.m., David was nowhere to be found, but his gaming console was still on. David's partner tried to call him, but he wasn't picking up. He finally did around 5:30 p.m. He told her that he was still working on the truck. At 6:13 p.m., he sent a text message to a friend. At 7:30 p.m., David's girlfriend had received 3 notifications from David's phone. Because of a certain software feature, iPhone users can have their phone send a message about being in a crash to an emergency contact, and that is why she got the alert. When she called the Jefferson County dispatchers, where the crash allegedly occurred, however, she was told that no crashes were reported that day. David's partner went to the alleged crash site's location but didn't find anything. David's partner reported him missing on the next day. His phone had been found behind the Providence Church in Jefferson City. It looked like it was thrown against the wall, and it is likely that this is what caused the crash alert to be sent to David's partner. The phone also attempted to call 911, but the call didn't complete. The last location David's phone was tracked was Walnut Avenue, about a minute away from the church. David didn't have his jacket, wallet, and a second phone with him when he went missing. His family also noted that he didn't have his hat with him, and he apparently always had it with him.
Conclusion: there isn't much info on David's case, and what we have doesn't really say much. It seems like his day was going fairly normal as he was busy fixing his friend's car, but something happened between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m., after which David had never been heard from again. It would be helpful to know what happened with the truck. Was it found? Did it go missing with David? Because I feel like this would really help with narrowing down what could have happened. If the truck went missing with David and hasn't been found, then I could see David getting into some sort of accident. Maybe he was testing out the car, crashed into the church and lost his phone, managed to back out and accidentally drove into a body of water. It is a bit far-fetched though. I don't know if David could crash into the church unnoticed, as we know that no crash had been reported. I wish we knew more about the friend David was fixing the truck for. Did they see David that day? Were they interviewed? What kind of person they are? Are they prone to anger, etc.? Something could have happened between them, and David might have ended up hurt. His body was then hidden, and the phone was tossed, with the perpetrator hoping that the phone will break on impact. We don't know a lot about the friend, so it's hard to speculate on that. I'd assume that they were interviewed by the police and nothing conclusive was found. In cases like this one, it's hard not to consider that drugs might have played a role. David used to have a drug problem in the past, and it's unclear if he was taking any at the time of his disappearance. It's possible that he relapsed for some reason and that he got high. He might have tossed his phone at the church for some reason known only to him and had an accident or died of exposure. I mentioned that David had troubles with the law because it's possible that he vanished out of his own volition. I don't know how likely that is though. If this is what happened, then I doubt his family is in on it, given that they seem quite heartbroken about David's disappearance. What was the mysterious explosion that was heard throughout the Grand Danse department of Haiti in April 2019? Earthquake, meteorite, or supersonic aircraft? An extremely obscure case about which there is not much information. I discovered this event out of curiosity while researching volcanoes in each country. After reading a lot about the 2021 La Palma volcano in Spain and the names of the two volcanoes mentioned below, post appeared linked to a page related to this event. On Sunday between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. on April 14th, 2019, a huge noise that sounded very similar to a large explosion was heard throughout the department of Grand Danse, a region located in the western half of the Haitian peninsula. These departments are similar to states, in case anyone didn't know. This event caused fear among local residents who were unable to locate the source of this noise or explain its cause, giving rise to rumors of all kinds. 24 hours after, some people raised that it was the awakening of a volcano, although there has never been a volcano in this department. The only two confirmed volcanoes in Haiti are the Mauzia and Morne-la-Vigie, which are far from the affected region and have been dormant for almost a million years and pose no danger to the population. On Sunday and Monday, local authorities were unable to explain the phenomenon. According to geological engineer and general director of the Haitian Mines Bureau, Claude Prepetit, this was not an earthquake or volcanic activity, and hypothesizes that maybe a meteorite exploded and disintegrated in the atmosphere before hitting the ground, but no impact points having been reported to date, different from Cuba in early February 2019. He also assures the population that if this hypothesis is confirmed, it no longer poses any danger to the population, while stressing that it is currently difficult to confirm what actually happened to Grand Danse on Sunday afternoon. After that day, nothing else was mentioned. I researched on Facebook, imagining that since it was an unusual event, there would be a lot of talk among people, but I only found a post from Haiti Libre with a link to the website of these two news stories here. Now a hypothesis of mine, don't take it with a grain of salt, but 2 days after the explosion, a magnitude 3.8 earthquake hit the department of Petite Trou de Nipis, which borders Grand Danse, and happened 2 days after this event. Fortunately, no one died and no damage was recorded. Could it have been a very low earthquake that was not detected?